My granddad gave me 2 bits of advice when I was a young lad. Brian, there are 2 kinds of people in this world. There are beers and doers. Don't be a beer. Be someone who does. Before I would go in the water, it would just be like check. You got good. Like everything was just done because it was life and death. So when I come into this industry and like there's little tiny mistakes, I was just like flying off the fucking handle. I just think I'm becoming more aware of other people's feelings as I get older. Sometimes that can be quite a painful thing. When you grow as a person and you look back at what you used to be, sometimes you hate it. I had a bit of a moment a few months ago where I just sort of had a bit of a meltdown. It was unbelievable how often and how bad the anxiety was and how bad the low moods were. I couldn't shake it. Like, it was just like, I do not want to be here. You know, it got to a point where every single day I was having suicidal thoughts, and like, it was sometimes multiple times a day, and it would just be like, when things were getting too much, it was like, it's okay, because if it gets too much, you can just end your life. And then one day I remember waking up and I just had like a whole night of nightmares, and I was like, if I don't do something about this, I am literally going to end up dead. The sad thing is in that time, my dad's also been going through a really bad time. My dad attempted suicide, and luckily I rang an ambulance immediately, and the ambulance got to him, and they managed to look after him and save him, basically. Welcome back to the True Geordie podcast.
Sponsored by
Gymshark. Shout out the boys at Gymshark and the girls. They look after us.
They really do.
They send me stuff all the time, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, you can just ask them for it and it just appears. It's meant.
Can I have their number? It's Joe, isn't it, that hooks you up?
Shout out to Joe.
Yeah, shout out to Joe.
We love
Joe
him.
really does look after
We love
us.
Joe. We love all of them.
Joe tries so hard, and yet you're so unloving when I hear you speak to him. I feel like you need to show Joe a bit more.
We have a love-hate relationship.
Well, yeah, in that he hates you and you're supposed to love him.
No, I go, where's Francis Ngannou?
Right.
Either get me the fucking interview or it's over.
I'm on the plane to Nigeria, Joe. You told me he'd be here.
But yeah, shout out to Gymshark. They just signed the UFC heavyweight champ of the world, and they signed him before the fight. Actually, they put their money where their mouth is.
Right.
Me and Gymshark, we do the same thing.
It's amazing.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a really smart thing.
So yeah, shout out to them, giving a lot of love out to them. You got the links in the description for everything you need. If you want to look good when you're working out.
Flexing.
Now that we can go back to the gym, thank fuck.
How do you feel now you're getting back in the gym?
I mean, I was sort of training, but not the same way. Now it's full steam ahead now.
Also, has your training changed a bit because the body you want to achieve is now not the same body you had before? Before, you wanted to be bigger, right? You wanted to be like a man mountain.
That was sort of forced upon me, Lawrence.
By what? By genetics. McDonald's? Oh, right, okay.
Well,
yeah.
And genetics and McDonald's.
Genetics and McDonald's. Genetically, I think that most people are predisposed to put on weight when they eat McDonald's. It's not like a you thing. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't want to favour McDonald's because Burger King also catered.
You eat just as much of that. That's
bloody
so true.
Love a double Whopper.
Yeah. And what about the burgers?
That'll be clipped up.
What about KFC?
That'll go into a future life story of mine.
No, I've seen this is very popular on. I've seen this very popular on other YouTube channels. What's your favourite fast food restaurant?
No, we're not doing that.
Brian, do you value being anonymous online?
Absolutely, Lawrence.
Yeah. Do you value being able to surf the web anywhere in the world?
Yeah.
That's why you'd love Surfshark. They're our sponsors on the podcast today.
Brilliant. Thank
really
you.
Great sponsors. These guys offer all sorts of services through one simple application and browser extension. Yeah, so I can get it on my phone, but I can also get it on my laptop, but I can also put it on my second laptop, or, my other little tablet-y thing that I just sort of carry around from time to time to look smart. Anywhere, that's the point. And all for one fee as well. But say that you're bored of Netflix in the UK, because we're only just coming out of lockdown now, and you've seen a lot of the Netflix.
I've seen everything.
Yeah, you can go to another country's Netflix and farm the shit out of that Netflix. I want to be able to see Americans. I want to be able to see Italians. I want to be able to see the Spanish. Not only that, but say that you want to protect your identity online, or, you go on Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or something, you want to protect the outgoing signal. No worries.
You're welcome.
Click the link in the description, use code Geordie at checkout, and you get 83% off and 3 months extra for free.
So that means you're only paying for 17% of the price.
Genuinely, that's unbelievable.
That's
when I first read that, I was like, sorry, did you put 83 there? I thought you meant like maybe 38 or something. No, 83 was correct. We emailed Surfshark and went, there's got to be something wrong here. They went, no problems.
Giving
just
it
read
away.
that.
Giving it away.
Genuinely, it's as good as. So head over to the website, look at the deal, and if you go through our link in the description below, they'll know that we sent
it makes us look good, and it keeps you in podcasts.
Sorry, what the hell does that mean? And it keeps you in podcast.
You're welcome.
No, what are we doing here?
Lots been going on. People just wanted us to do a catch up. Obviously, we did the next episode video.
We did that. That took way too long. Jeez, get up.
We took them down memory lane. Oh, are you crying? Yeah. Are you happy for us? Yes, we're making money.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Welcome.
Why are you crying? We're making cash.
Like we could have just done it like that in 3 words. That's it.
I get the feeling that doesn't emote the same response.
Yeah, but would have been less work for you. So.
Yeah, I know, but
looking back at it.
Yeah, ultimately, was it worth the squeeze? Yeah. The juice was worth the squeeze.
It was. So many people messaged me saying they were crying.
You know what? It brought back so many memories for me. It wrecked me mentally because I watched every podcast front to back with the guy filming this right now.
Shout out Roven.
Must have well, he was already mentally ruined anyway, but it must have sent him deeper down the hole.
Yeah.
Because when you watch yourself back from the last 5, imagine now, anyone who doesn't record themselves on a regular basis, that you're just sitting in your office and every moment when you've made a joke, every time you've put yourself out there, every time that you've had a water cooler moment, or you've made coffee and made a joke to one of your friends in the office or wherever you work, that's recorded and then played back to you 5 years later, and people in the comments are going, that's not very good. Or people go, we don't like this guy. Or people are commenting like, he's wrong. Or you were just wrong. It was a trip.
It was great for me to watch, and and luckily I wasn't the one editing it. Thank fuck for that.
Yeah,
and there is only
that would have taken even longer.
But obviously the story sort of focused around me. You didn't actually, when I look back at it, put in enough of your good moments.
But there were little bits like us laughing at email and stuff like that. But it was your story as well.
No, but I appreciate that, and it's an honour to have your best mate. Right. Sort of tell your story for you.
Because also we've seen it closest.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
More than anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Because now the only option is for you to kill me.
Or bribe you.
No, definitely kill.
Yeah,
I wouldn't accept a bribe.
No, that's the thing. You're not actually driven by money. So now in that.
Yeah, I know.
Just pay you off.
Although I got to admit, I did this thing yesterday where I took my son to Hamleys. You ever been to a really good toy shop before?
Not for a long time.
Right, I'll tell you 2 things about good toy shops. First of all, incredibly fun. Second, full of adults that still believe that they are children.
Like YouTube then?
Yes. No, Hamleys is very much the YouTube of the high street,
okay.
right? Because first of all, anyone can walk in there. Initially when you walk in, very much like on YouTube, you go, this is good, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, hey, look, it's recommending all the things I like bubbles and police cars and all this stuff. You get downstairs, you get in the deep, dark bits, the basement, right? You find the fucking basement. You've wandered onto some dark shit, all right? First of all, there's a massive bear just walking around downstairs. My son freaked the fuck out when he saw this bear. Yeah. He didn't know what to react. He didn't know how to react until he looked at me and went, he's laughing. Guess I laugh as well.
Yeah.
Initially, he went, I've never seen him so shocked. We're walking around looking for a bubble machine downstairs, right? I know this probably isn't the story people came from.
No, people wanted to hear that.
Right.
I put it out on the old social media and they were like, tell us about Lawrence's dad stories.
Right, okay. Walking around, it's quite dingy when you get downstairs in Hamleys. Like, it's not set up like a kid's toy store. But if it's Harry Potter, so you're like, oh, maybe it's a theme. You wander through the Harry Potter part, you get out the other side, and you think you found the bubble machines. I'm looking one way, Flu's looking the other, baby's just sitting there, he's having a great time. Out of nowhere, a tiny, small, fat man appears with a Harry Potter wand. And I'm not joking. I turn around from looking over here and go, oh my God. And there is a man with the wand at Flu's temple. And
what does he shout?
And he goes, Kazaa! And Flu,
that isn't even a Harry Potter.
That's not even a Harry Potter thing, right? And Flu...
Surely Expecto Patronum.
Flu literally goes, like, oh my God!
Did she play along, or was she genuinely terrified of the small fat?
You know Flu, you've met Flu. She's not the kind of person who plays along instantly off the top.
Definitely not.
She realised this man was... we sort of worked out this man was slightly mentally challenged, but not fully.
Did he work there, or was he just wandering around?
But we couldn't work out if he was sort of... on the spectrum, in a sense of, there's somewhere where he believes he is actually Harry Potter, or whether he's worked in a kid's store so long that he now just is stuck in this world and he plays with everyone that he meets. I genuinely believe this man never left the store. Like, he was dressed in a little jumper that didn't fit him quite right, and he just kept following us around and would just pop up and sort of go, bubble machines, is it that you like? And I'd go, yeah. And he'd go, take a look at this one. And I was like, just strange.
Yeah.
And then he came over with the bear and was like, have you met the bear? Do you like the bear? And we were like, the bear scared the child. And he went, I could take the bear away if that's... And we were like, take. And he led the bear away. And as he led the bear away, the bear minded being sad. And I was like, this is a weird world.
COVID's done weird things to the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're not talking about COVID. So yeah, it wasn't quite Duncan's toy chest or whatever it was off Home Alone, where the old man's nice.
That was what ultimately the guy didn't scar
You wanted
us.
the turtle doves.
I wanted an old man to walk over and go, what is friendship?
There you go.
Go away, my son.
So what you're learning from being a dad so far? Then you're coming up to 1 year.
Yeah. What have I learned about being a dad? You know what you really think about when you first have a kid, right? Legacy. You start thinking about what you're leaving behind.
Right, okay.
And also the way your own parents treated you.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
You're getting some childhood trauma coming out, is it?
No, more like, you know when people see me in a picture in 40, 50 years' time?
Uh-huh.
Not 40, hopefully I'll still be alive by then. 100 years' time,
wow.
right?
Wow.
What will they think? Will they watch our podcast and go...
I'll be alive then.
Right, no, maybe we'll have frozen our brains or something? 40 years' time from now, I'll be 70, luckily.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not planning on being around then.
Sure.
I'm on the fast lane here.
Then the other thing I thought, which now comes back to you, will this podcast be watched in 40 years' time and people go, what a funny little time? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you been genuinely thinking about this?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot, you know? Which is why I'm wondering how I cut my hair and stuff now. Which is why I've not made a decision.
So you're basing your haircut off the style that may be in 100 years?
This is what I'm suggesting will be cool in 100 years' time. Beats headphones, but they'll be permanently on the head.
Always.
Yeah, always. And this.
Shaggy.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And you've done it the other way. Yeah, so I love that.
I've gone the other way.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Legacy. You do start thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. But just also how you're perceived in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, that changes as you get older. And you like, you know, when you're young, you're like, fuck it, who cares?
There's not a general opinion of one person, though, is there?
No, but what I mean is like famous, or whether people in my family look at that and go, do you remember him? He wasn't, you know. Whether in 100 years' time, everyone will be like Christians and sort of go, he didn't live a very clean living life, did he? You know what I mean? Or whether we'll get cancelled because of some of definitely the Don't Fuck With Cats podcast.
I get what you mean. Yeah, like you do start thinking, what is the purpose of all of this?
Right,
isn't it?
And things begin to feel a bit more fixed.
That's why I want it to be layered, what we're doing here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's some stuff that is just sort of here today, gone tomorrow. Like, you know, the kickoff, the football stuff, what we're talking about is irrelevant in a week's time because some new shit just happened.
But it matters so much in the moment.
Well, yeah, but it's fun and, you know, it's that emotional tribalism bollocks that we get sucked into. But
glad you acknowledge that.
With the podcast and some of the people we've interviewed, and I think that's what your video showed, is at times it does get very meaningful. At times we are doing more than just a little one-on-one chat, and that's why, you know, having people like Elizabeth Smart on who've got more than just 5 minutes of fame, but have got really life lessons to hand over to people of how dealing with hardship, real desperately bad hardship, how you can go through that and come out the other side and be a good person. These are the sort of things that I think I like to say, well, at least we've got that, because most YouTubers, it is just the here today, gone tomorrow bullshit.
Right, I see what you're saying.
And 99% of YouTubers will go through 10 years and they'll barely make a single meaningful video that actually touches someone inside. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, because I do think it's healthy to have chewing gum, you know, content.
Escapism.
You're just chewing through it, yada, 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 threw it in the bin. That was all right. It lasted 5 minutes, but for that 5 minutes, the taste was all right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that,
fresh.
And a lot of our content has been that way as well.
True.
But if I don't challenge myself, and we don't challenge ourselves to make something meaningful along the way that we actually have in the pile of things we're proud of, you and I think we'd both just be like, what are we doing?
Do you know, I actually realised it physically impacts me if I don't feel like happy with work, or like I don't feel like we're making good videos. Like I actually look different. And there's actual science to back up that if you aren't happy with what you're doing in your life, your face begins to look different.
Yeah.
Like your face physically if you've realized certain things about yourself, apparently your face will look a certain way.
I must admit, there was someone I remember from my younger years in life who was a really bad person, and the older they got, like they were a fairly good looking person in their younger life, but the older they got, the worse it showed on their face. And you end up looking like a Camilla Parker Bowles type ugly woman. Like,
right. Do you ever wonder though? Like, first of all, vicious towards Camilla Parker.
No, but the
I'm
point I'm making
is,
I do think like bad people, it does show like on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And but I was wondering how much.
I'm not saying Camilla's bad, but you know,
well,
she probably is, isn't she?
You know what she said to Diana, I really don't like.
Okay.
So, but ultimately, what part of me wondered how much of that is down to my own self-perception and how much I'm taking on other people's perceptions, and then that shows in your face. Do you ever wonder? Do you ever look at, like, and especially when I was looking at the podcast, I looked at how different our faces looked when we started to now.
I change a lot. I'm.
Yeah, you really do. Like, if at one point Rovan and I were having this discussion about whether we could do another video, which was almost like a flick book of like your face on the podcast.
So weird.
And we are kind of still thinking of doing that because I think it would be a bit of a trip for you.
I am quite known for changing my appearance depending on the photograph and when it was taken. Like,
right.
There are some people who look the exact same person 10 years on.
Life.
With me,
never
like,
changed.
It's fucking mental how much
One day you've got a beard, the next day you've still got the beard.
No,
but it's a bit
I don't know if
longer.
this makes sense or not, but I know from taking pictures of myself, I'm like, how the fuck are those two pictures me?
The same man.
5 minutes apart.
I even noticed
angles, man.
You know what? I also notice your own self-confidence is different now as well. Like,
who, me?
Yeah. You.
What have you noticed?
Well, you know, you 5 years ago,
you
wouldn't have taken some of the self shots that you've taken that you take now.
What do you
Maybe
mean?
because you didn't feel the same way about your body back then. You didn't feel. I don't know what look were you going for 5 years ago. I'm not. I started that sentence and it didn't sound mean, but I finished it and it is.
Okay. The God's honest truth though is like a wild motherfucker is what I was, wasn't it? Like, you remember how wild I was back then.
Right.
Like, there's many stories that we just cannot tell on the podcast. But the point is, I did not give a fuck. Like, anyone who challenged me was getting it. And like, I just didn't think about stuff the way I do now. Like, meeting you was a very big turning point where I was like, oh, okay, there are other ways to do this, like, you know what I mean? Life.
Yeah, like, I think you and I actually both changed, saw the other one and went, oh, there's other ways of doing this.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
we came at things from completely different angles. So then meeting you, it completely changed me. I always say this, after my own mother, you are the person who's affected me the most in my life.
Do you know what I had as a flashback to...
Some of the clothes I wear were terrible, I know that.
I mean, both of you and I have had fashion faux pas.
But
that pattern jumper was just never going to suit me.
But the realistic thing was, though, I would go to business meetings, and when I look back at it, I think, wow. Like, you know what I mean? I would turn up to business meetings. I'll never forget my worst one. I turned up when I turned up to meet Alan Shearer. I went to it was not to meet Shearer, but I think, to be honest, that was the only reason I went.
Right.
Was this Cannes festival thing for advertising, and Shearer was there, and everyone was in nice, smart summer wear, and I literally wore a vest and jeans
with 45 on the front, or something like that.
No, it was like a green camo looking vest.
Right,
and
that one. Yeah.
I look back at it and like, especially how out of shape I was as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like that.
No, you weren't in terrible shape.
No, but it's the lack of fucks given that it's quite mental, and it was like that for a long time. And I don't know. I'm never going to be the guy who's obsessed with the way he looks.
Of course not.
And I'll never be the one getting his top off in all the pictures or whatever else. But I am taking more pride in my appearance. So
but it shows in the photos you take as well, and like it shows in your face as well, and all these kind of things. I think you can really, and maybe it'll be interesting. Do this to all YouTubers. Like, if you're a fan of a YouTuber, maybe go take a look at their face 5 years ago and their face now, and work out what isn't just aging, but is also like self-perception and all these kind of things.
Yeah, if you look at the big YouTubers, take KSI and Logan, for example. If you look at them pre-fight and now, they just have... They're men.
Yeah, it's simple Disney-nomics, which is... It's Simba in Disney, right? Simba starts with a soft face, ends with this sculpted... Like, you can even see it. And it's the same with when you become a man. Your face changes. You become more sculptured.
The Lion King. It's great. I bet you're watching some of that now, are you?
He's just about transitioning into that phase now where he loves
He's transitioning already, is he?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I didn't want to say him. But he is transitioning into being... He's in that phase now where he's into narrative and not just into like...
Simba.
Yeah, and he reacts to that kind of thing.
Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
I was 20 minutes late today because I had to... I tried to leave and he wouldn't
get off.
Let go. And that was the first time he's ever done that today. Like he knew I was leaving.
As a person looking from the outside in, obviously the supporters of the pod want to know what it's like for you being a dad.
Yeah.
But I think you've dealt with it fantastically.
I thought it would be harder than this so far. And well, I'm not begging for something hard to happen. Yeah. What I mean is like, I thought that just the idea, like it would weigh much more mentally on me. Yeah. The idea of this other person in my life is what I mean. I'm not saying I found it easy because it isn't, but I did think it would weigh much more on me.
But here's the point though, is you are not a selfish person. Sure. So I think the fact that you are a giving person by nature means that someone like you, while you might feel tired and exhausted and all the other things that any parent feels, you're not built to be in shock when you have to put someone else before you. No, and I think especially men, that's the bit that men struggle with, because we're not, we're selfish bastards, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And obviously women, I do think genetically are predisposed to go into this sort of mother mode when they do have a child, so that it doesn't shock them the way it can for some women. Get shocked, but like
I see what you're saying.
But I feel like some men, like, and we've heard Rory, for example, on the kickoff talk. Bloody hell! Like when Rory talks about being a dad, he's like, "So fucking better, mate." Like,
but now he seems to absolutely love it. But it seems like the first year, like, really took him by surprise. Almost, it's really changed our relationship as like parents in terms of Flu and I.
Okay,
I've seen so many other brilliant aspects of her that I hadn't really witnessed before. That I think like maybe you just don't see in a person
Can I caveat this by saying, if your relationship is not working,
absolutely,
the solution isn't like Lawrence and Flu were getting on fine just before this. You don't need to
relatively.
Do you know what I mean though? But like, some people view a baby.
Go, let's get a dog.
Like I've seen people where they're struggling, and because out of fear of losing the other person, they just get pregnant. They're like, right, we're going to break up. We need to do something drastic to keep together.
Pull the goalie.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
Back of the net.
Right. And you know what? Sometimes it's just fun hitting the back of the net, isn't it?
Pop it up the arse, mate. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. And that is another netting sort.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that's actually really good advice. Genuinely. There are people out there who are, like some people get a bit squeamish with anal sex. I feel like it's become more mainstream in the past few years. Since we started the podcast, I genuinely think anything butt related has become more mainstream.
Butts are just great though, aren't they?
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree. That's actually true.
just are.
Yeah. And the fact is, it's gone full circle, because a few years ago, if you'd have said that, you would have been like cancelled. But now we're all open-minded enough to know that ass is amazing.
There's a lot of that going around now. I mean, people are getting injections in their bottoms.
I'm not for it. I personally think that if the baby had come out and looked completely different to Flu and I, and she'd gone, by the way, none of this is real, I'd have gone, I feel lied to.
Oh, all right. So you want the real deal?
Well, I just want to know what I'm getting. Do you know what I mean?
Do you subscribe to the look at the mother thing? You know how men say, look at the mother of the missus that you're with.
Oh, yeah. Well, if that's the case, then Flu is not going to age from now until 60.
I've met...
Flu's mum.
Yeah. She's a very good-looking woman. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
I've also noticed her dad's quite attractive, so either way, we're good.
I don't remember him. I was just looking at the mother.
I'll tell you this. Right? We didn't know. And
Flu, don't kill me.
One of the best things that has happened to us is he's got blue eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have blue eyes. Flu doesn't have blue eyes. Apparently, it can skip a generation.
Really?
Like my dad has blue eyes, and my grandmother had blue eyes.
Oh, that's cute.
So he's got his amazing deep blue eyes. We don't show his face on social media. He's got amazing deep blue eyes. Honestly.
For those who want to know what he looks like, just imagine Lawrence, but smaller.
And shaven. So not no beard.
Yeah.
If you shaved me, I probably would look exactly
He
like
looks
him.
a lot like you and your dad.
The amount of people who go, he's got something in his eye. It seems to be a bit puffy. And I just go, sorry, have you not? No? Genuinely, Flew regularly goes, he must have something in his eye. It's really puffy. I'm like, it's just his normal eye.
Can we address my eye while we're talking about dodgy eyes?
That one. Yeah.
Have you noticed
what's that? Is that what's that called? Is that a sty?
I don't know. Right.
Oh.
I've had people give multiple opinions on it. Long story short, the consensus is I probably got a whack at boxing.
Yeah.
You know how you're sweaty and all that, and two men are punching each other.
Yeah.
And it's probably a little bit of an infection off of that.
Like conjunctivitis sort of thing.
I didn't. It feels fine, right? I got to my job, so it hasn't done.
Is it painful?
I know it's all right, but I'm going to the doctors next week. I think they're going to have to take something out or something. I don't know.
The eye scares me a bit. Do you know what I mean? Like anything around the eye. The eye is so...
No, genuinely, I do feel the same way, but what the fuck am I going to do? I look ridiculous right now.
It does. Honestly, I don't even notice it, really, and we can light it. So now I can't stop looking at it.
I feel sorry because Logan has a similar problem. He gets it every now and then.
You're both boxers.
Logan had the exact same shape right before he had to do WrestleMania, so he had to show up at WrestleMania wearing those sunglasses. That's why he had the sunglasses on.
I get it, because otherwise a wrestler definitely would have picked on that.
I think it must be a boxing thing as well, because he had it right at the same time.
So what you're basically doing is you're punching someone and leaving a whole load of germs and bacteria all over the end of the glove and then transferring it into the eye.
Basically, yes.
Where you'll then open blood
remember
vessels.
when I had a bit of a black eye from that week when Vidal smacked us? Yeah, it was like that, yeah.
How's that going with, boxing someone who's a potential world champion?
Well, luckily I haven't had to for a couple of weeks because, he was busy sparring some other victim that week.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But when I spar him, I've got like a body armor on as well.
I didn't realise that. Okay.
Yeah, so that is the one saving grace, is these body shots just tend to move me across the ring rather than break my ribs.
Tell me though, what's it like having someone, so, you've done training and when you're in the ring you felt quite safe because you know Derek. Like Derek's not a harmful guy when he's training you. He's just asking you to punch pads.
No, he smashed my
face in.
Right. Remember that?
But but the point is, when you've then got Vidal in there who's not training you, he's actually out with intent.
No, it's
what does that feel like? Like what do you remember what you felt like the first time when Derek went hopping within Vidal?
I sort of wasn't. I think we talked about this a little bit on a clip before, but
a little bit.
I only sort of. I trust these guys so much that I only sort of really realised what the fuck was going on about a minute in when I was like, oh shit, this is getting harder.
Does your stomach react? What's your physical reaction to anything?
It's just survival mode, really.
Really?
Mate. It's like the last time I sparred him, I just remember thinking, I want to quit. He's going to drop me. Yeah, he's going to really fucking drop me because he was just tagging me. Like, and when I spar other people, like, I get roughed up.
Yeah.
But when I spar Vidal, my jaw hurts afterwards because he's so accurate. Mm-hmm. So like, he doesn't just punch you; he punches you in the perfect spot with the perfect technique. Everything's so perfect that afterwards, I remember having a burger afterwards, and like my jaw was actually sore, and like I was like really struggling.
So you're finding out like little side effects that you just never think about.
It's just being in there with a pro. And versus being in there with like the regular lads that we train with, it's like going from, playing around with a fucking pussycat to a lion. You know what I mean? It's a huge difference, and it just gave me such an appreciation now for when I watch fighters who are getting the fuck beaten out of them, like in the ring of like. Sometimes in the past I might have said certain things and not really respected what the loser was going through, or you know what I mean. Like,
it's fair to say though you had actually been in real life fights before.
Yeah, but it's just the elite level that these guys spend the time in the gym and all of that. So it made me regret some of the things I've said in the past about.
Do you want to apologise to anyone now?
Well, no, I've said it now, but I paid for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, reality check.
Do you get used to it after a while? Where you think you're on the way to a session, you're just like, just completely normal. I'm just going to get in the ring with it. Or is it every time it's like, I'm getting in the ring with someone today?
No, there's an element of nerves for me every time. Just even if I know I should be fine, I just think serious shit. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm getting better with it. I'm getting more confident.
How do you feel about your body now?
Better.
Yeah?
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Like the whole thing.
I mean, there's still plenty of areas I'm thinking that could be a bit fucking...
Longer? No? No.
Yeah, thicker.
Yeah.
But, it's like... It ain't going to happen overnight. It's more just me feeling fitter that I'm happy with.
Right.
It's the performance side of it that I'm preferring.
That comes with a confidence as well, doesn't
Yeah.
it? That gives you confidence.
Well, yeah, because in the rebuild, people who watch the rebuild, every time I got in the ring, I was constantly under the awareness of I'm going to get tired before Derek does. And that is a terrifying thing because the minute you get tired, it doesn't matter how hard I can hit, he can then pour on the pressure and I'm fucked then. So now I'm getting in the ring with people and I'm able to put them under pressure and I'm strong, then it's a completely different feeling now. And I'm getting better at boxing. I think people are going to see when we finally do Rebuild 3, I think people are going to be like, oh, right, he's actually good.
How do you control your self-confidence now? Because it's fair to say, if you're getting all this praise and you're thinking you're really good at boxing, that could skyrocket.
In what way?
Well, when you first started boxing, you were quite confident, but Derek definitely brought you back down to earth.
Literally.
At one point. You're now building it back up. But there's sort of there's a plateau that you're going to reach at some point. And I don't know, I'm just interested to see what the next level is, how far you can actually take this.
Yeah, me too.
How far your level and your ability can be.
But my self-confidence will never get out of control because when you've got people like Derek and Vidal around you, that's why Vidal's so chill, because his dad will literally, doesn't matter if he's world champion, his dad will still talk to him like you're still Vidal to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and at the minute I get in there with either of those two, it's a different fucking world altogether. So, I can beat up anyone. Doesn't really matter because I know that there's someone harder. So it's not like I'm going to start thinking I'm fucking heavyweight champ of the world all of a sudden.
Can feel that way though, can't it?
Well, yeah, in that little moment where you have your win or whatever, you beat someone up or you do better, it feels great, but I'm never I never walk out of there and be like, yeah,
I'm the fucking man.
I never do that. I just wouldn't though. Do you know what I mean?
No, I get it. It's smart. It's good to see the physical confidence and difference in you though.
Yeah.
Mentally, do you feel different?
I feel lighter.
Right, actually as in you feel the lightness in your body.
I literally feel like there's a spring in my step because I'm not carrying around all the weight. From when we started the rebuild, I was obviously 23 stone. I'm now 20 and a half.
Which is mad. 3 stone weight loss in
almost
for anyone is an insane amount of weight. That's 20. That was 20% of your body weight.
I don't know what it is, about 40 pounds or something. Yeah, quite a lot.
For some people, they weigh that.
Yeah, mental, innit?
You were walking around, if I hugged me and then jogged, that's what it would have been like for me. I know that over time, you build up tendons and muscles and stuff, so it's naturally you're going to be built different. But it's mad to me that if I'd have jumped on my own back and then gone, time to box, that would have been the weight that you boxed at when you first started.
Yeah, what were you?
11 and a half.
Right, yeah, so I was literally, 2 of that.
Yeah, and that's what I don't think a lot of people realise or think about is
when they say I'm unfit and all of that shit.
Yeah, or just when anyone says anything, for me to lose a stone would look very different, and that's what you did.
That's what I'm realising is for a big lad, I am really fit.
Yeah.
I know the pace I can put on people now, I'm okay. When I'm sparring really fit lads, I'm you're struggling as well here. This ain't about power. If I wanted to put real hard punches together, I could, but it's about I'm trying to get fit. I'm trying to get faster. I'm trying to become better at the boxing side of things.
Does it impact your daily life any different? Is your decision making quicker, or are you, can you now turn and get a train quicker?
I fucking want to sleep more. That's for sure.
Do you sleep a lot?
I'm just wrecked. On a workout now, because I'm sweating so much and I'm really exhausting myself. My normal workouts used to be weight lift. Right, we're going home. Right. Now I am dripping with sweat when I leave a gym, and I'm doing cardio every single time.
Do you do anything to recover?
No, I've heard ice baths are good, but I haven't done it yet.
Cold showers are good as well. Have you ever done a cold shower?
My calves and shit are really tight and stuff.
That's the fucking question. Have you ever done a cold shower?
Yeah, but not by choice, just because these cunts didn't fucking sort the fucking water out.
You should do a cold shower every time you've done a session.
Really?
Yeah, because genuinely it changes the healing. I cold shower after every exercise I do. You don't feel it the next day, or relatively less. I can't recommend cold showers enough. I want to live in a country where I can do
comfy though,
hot, cold. Like I'd love to go and live in Sweden for a little while and like do those ice plunge things. That I think we should go to Sweden.
I mean,
I know why you want to go to Sweden, but I think we should go to Sweden. Do you know what I mean? I think we should go to Sweden, do a sauna, and then jump in the snow together. I'd love to do that.
With wearing thongs?
No, wearing nothing. No, I want to see it all.
There'll be not much to see, bro.
Well, no, but that's the point.
I remember when, going back to the diving days,
Yeah.
I remember once my suit flooded.
You told me that. This is a story you actually told, but we cut it out in the end.
Yeah, and I remember getting out, and I just remember looking at my dick afterwards being like, Jesus Christ, what's going on here?
Wow.
Where is it?
Yeah.
It was so freezing for that long length of time.
But genuinely, like, think about how far you've come. Like, what I had to watch was also a lot of you talking about your own self journey. And one thing you did say about diving is you never felt like you had a creative outlet while you were diving.
No.
But the funny thing was, even though you were diving, you were always making videos. So you were still videoing and probably pissing off about 50% of the people in the
So weird, that, isn't it? Looking back at it, all that little footage I was taking the whole time. And like you've seen the little videos I made.
Yeah.
I mean, one day we should probably post them just for
I think you should just publish them. Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Do like a True Geordie archive channel.
Yeah, it was...
I think it's hilarious, if I'm honest.
Sometimes you can only connect the dots backwards in life. And I think there's probably a lot of people... I was thinking about this the other day because we get messages of, younger people all the time saying, what should I do in life? And it was like, my passion was staring us right in the face the whole time.
Yeah.
And I just did not realise that could even be a career of any sort. Right. You know what I mean? And YouTube was around then. I just was like oblivious, really. I was like,
Did it also not seem available because no one on the platform looked like you?
Yeah, but also I had no idea that there was money in this or anything like that. And even when I eventually did start, I didn't know there was money in it until like a year down the road.
Or as much money as diving, or as much money as you could have made somewhere else.
Nah, no clue, mate. No clue. I literally thought if I make minimum wage doing YouTube, I'd rather do that than be rich doing diving. So I'll do that and be happy.
Has anyone from the diving world seen any of your videos and sort of been in contact? Or just anyone from like your previous life?
Yeah, my diving instructor, the guy who coached us on the whole first few months.
Steve.
I don't know what his name is.
Steve.
Was it?
No,
but anyway, he sent an email in, and I knew it was him, and I was like, wow. And he was like, well done, you're an inspiration and all of that. And I thought, you were a cunt to us.
Really?
No, but like, that's what they're like in it, military, innit? It's like everyone just gets beasted when you're a young little fucking rat.
Did you enjoy that to some extent? Like, did you enjoy the test?
There was moments where I did, yeah. There was, looking back at the diving, my happiest memories were like, I remember there was this thing where we do the deepest air dives possible down to like 50 meters. And
sorry, when you say air dives, what does that mean?
Sorry, we're breathing air. In order to go deeper, you have to breathe a different
compressed.
A mix of oxygen and helium, and then you end up having to stay down for a lot longer and all of that. But
for anyone out there, we took about 15 minutes to get to this diving thing, but go for it. It is interesting, but just comes on every podcast, doesn't it?
Sorry. And I remember they basically say like you have to go right down to the bottom and do like surveys or whatever, but it was the moment where I would go head first, and there'd be a rope going right down to the bottom, but like I would literally fly down, and it was almost like skydiving, you know what I mean? Like if you imagine, but I'm underwater, just like, but I was a
that scene in GTA.
I was a rapid swimmer, so when me and whoever I was with, I'd fucking race down me, and just that feeling of utter fearlessness as I'm flying towards the seabed underwater, and I just remember thinking like, this is cool as fuck.
Did you enjoy it? Like,
that was one of the moments I did. Right. Yeah. There was some moments, but like long term, the more I did it, the more I realized this ain't for me. Like, these aren't my kind of boys and all that.
Really? What kind of boys?
No, there was some lads I absolutely loved, but like generally speaking, I don't know. There was a lot of unhappy people there. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean that in a like, like diving.
A judgmental way.
No, like hard grafting men who are like, a lot of the time doing it to support a family at home, and often haven't seen the family in months on end, And I fucking respected them.
But that changes a man, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. There was like, I just remember this one guy who like, he was putting his daughter through uni, and my nickname for him was the Godfather, and he was like this hard-nosed Scottish guy, proper diamond of a bloke. But like, he was like, yeah, I ain't been home for however many months, but I just don't want her to have any debt from university and that. And I was just like, and the guy was just working and working and working, like, just like, strike while the iron's hot. And like, I appreciated that. And as a young lad, like, I was earning, I think on that job, I was earning about £9,000 a month.
Wow, that's good.
And, you know, it was 12-hour days every fucking day, if not more. And I felt like a part of the team. And the thing I was always really good at was like ingratiating myself with the boys and making everyone laugh. And like, I was the life and soul of the party sort of thing. And I was a bang average diver, but like I would always get jobs because I was like just a laugh. And when you're stuck on a boat with lads for 12 hours every day, if you make people laugh and you keep everyone's spirits up, they're going to get you jobs. They're going to go and get him on his sound. Like, so I got my jobs based on that. And ironically, like, the YouTuber in me probably helped really, because aside from being big and strong, I was still new to diving a lot, like, early on.
Those people aren't very visible in the world, though, are they? Like, I don't find that those people are like portrayed in the mainstream quite a lot, and I do feel like those kind of people get a bit forgotten because they are quite important components of society. You need tough people, and you kind of brought that a bit with you, I think, when you first started YouTube, and even when you first started the podcast. Like, your approach was just different to anyone else's to life, in terms of you were coming into a bit of a media space where it's quite, you know, hey,
airy fairy.
And I don't mean that in a camp way, but I mean like, hey, how you doing? Oh, kiss.
Airy fairy.
Yeah, and that was quite alien to you.
I fucking hated it. Like, I was like, I want to, like, creative people are usually lazy, in my opinion. Like, so I wanted to bring the working class practical approach to this and smash them together. And I think, you know, when you look at successful people in any creative industry, it's because they've got the drive and
of course
that. And like, in terms of those people, the one place I've seen them pretty well represented is a documentary called Last Breath on Netflix, where deep sea divers, you know, one of them, there's a major accident basically. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it, because it gives a good idea of just what stone-faced kind of guys they are. And, you know, there's a moment in the documentary where one of them has to save the other one's life. And just by how matter-of-fact he is, like, I think that'll blow people away a little bit of like, he's like, I just got to move this thing from here to here. Like, and the guy's like lifeless body is what he's talking about. But like, you have to condense everything down to like A, B, and C. Yeah. And just simplify and just be really practical. Like, and I did admire the attitude of the lads and stuff. It's just, it ain't who I wanted to be forever. Do you know what I mean?
Well, what you do for your life shapes you, doesn't it? Like, and I think if you day in, day out are doing a job where A, you could die at any point, and B, it is about doing A, B, C, and you will achieve A, B, C, and therefore this money goes into your account. It's a little bit different to the job that we do, which is a bit like, if you cover A, Z, and T, then maybe we'll give you P. And you're like,
this is why I think I've massively overreacted several times in our working life off camera. Like, I'm known for having a bit of a short fuse, because everything, like, before I would go in the water, it would just be like check. You got good. Like, everything was just done. No one could afford to slack in any way, shape, or form, because it was life and death. So I have been, you know, I was such a young lad. It did shape who I was. So I came in to this industry with that frame of mind of like, well, why not? Why is this not like this? Why not? Like, the idea that there's money on the line and that things just don't happen, it blew me away. Do you know what I mean? And I think I still struggle with it sometimes, because it wasn't even just the diving. Before that, you know, working as an apprentice engineer and stuff like that, being around those kind of men where things just happen and you don't have to ask twice, and it just, you know, and then so when I come into this industry and like there's little tiny mistakes, I was just like, fucking, you remember flying off the fucking handle, and you know, fuck me.
But that was, I think, like, some people can put up with it and some people can't. Like some people would just go, fuck this, I can't take this amount of stress and not do diving anymore or not do that, because I'd imagine that weighs on you quite a bit, which is why they are those kind of characters, because you kind of have to dial certain things down and dial other things up.
Yeah, I think it definitely brought out the most masculine side of me. That's probably why when we first started the podcast, I was so like that.
You were very matter of fact about everything you said. And when you say masculine, you mean like sort of doing and, you know...
no, I just mean like...
Traditionally masculine.
No, I was like military type lad, you know what I mean? I was proper... that's just, you know, because my feminine side had been so... You know,
suppressed?
Yeah, very much so. So when I was around a guy like you who was just chill, all of a sudden it was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about this side of me.
Strange though, because you know when you say you forgot about it, I definitely still like saw that in, like it was still in there, still in your eyes the whole time. Like your eyes haven't changed is what I would say. And I don't mean that. I mean, like, your eyes are still the same eyes. And Rowan and I were talking about this when we were editing, how you watch people over and over again, you get little idiosyncrasies, but your eyes haven't changed down all the years. And you've still got, like, quite honest, quite loving eyes. And you've always had those.
Yeah, I've got my mother's eyes.
Yeah, and so no matter how much you were talking about shagging the birds or, like, going out for drinks and that, like, you still said it with a love in your eyes?
Yeah, because I'm a loving person. And that's the thing I think people don't get about me is I genuinely like care about people, even though I say things where it doesn't sound like it.
Right.
Like I'm a complex, fucked up person where on the one hand I've been raised by a very loving, caring woman who, you know, put so much into me in that regard. But then I've been shaped by a lot of different working class men who, when I was away working offshore, it was just like, we'll graft, we'll go out, we'll sink pints and we'll shag women. And that was what it was. Do you know what I mean? So they sort of were my dads collectively, many of them, do you know what I mean? Where they were giving me that advice and, you know, this is how you do this. And I took little bits of lots of different father figures along the way.
It shapes your world though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it makes you like, that's why maybe the media industry didn't even occur to you, because those men, and this isn't judgmental, I'm saying it doesn't even occur to them to film themselves doing it, because that's just not...
Well, I mean, if you look in TV, YouTube and all of that, like I am an absolute fucking throwaway. Like there is no one around who is like that, really.
Yeah,
you know
like
what I mean?
They tend to be sort of more outliers. You're not the mainstream is what you're saying.
No,
like these people would be more the other way. What I was interested about though is I think digital has also changed that, because now, and let's face it, like a lot of stuff that you shoot on YouTube, and this isn't judgmental of YouTube, but like a lot of stuff you shoot on YouTube, if you don't get it right, you can just go back to where you sit, you do it again. Mm-hmm. You know, when you first started film, if you didn't expose the film right, or you overexposed it or underexposed it, and you had a famous actor, like, you know, back in the 50s, if you didn't get it right, you just fucked the film. Mm-hmm. And there were like whole interviews I've watched with DOPs recently, directors of photography, where they go, yeah, so sometimes it was just a total risk, and I was just really worried that the scene just hadn't come out and I completely fucked it. But then they're like, but now with digital, and it's completely changed the approach, because people can be a lot more, well, you know, we'll fix it in post or whatever. And it has sort of, it doesn't feel as life and death. Do you know what I mean?
I think that was one thing that benefited me starting YouTube, is I used to, when I do like a little Newcastle video, I would always one take it. And if I made a mistake, I'd just start again.
Right.
And
as in from the very start.
Yeah. So if I did a good 8 minutes, I'd just start again and do the 10-minute.
Okay.
And I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And I never really told anyone about this. But then when it come to being, you know, doing the Wembley Cup, or, you know, these first little things that people seeing in that look back on the Dre video, I had practiced so much that I was just able to do one take immediately. And you know,
it did make it a little tricky, because also you also weren't willing to do more than one take sometimes, which also could make it hard sometimes. And sometimes, I mean, even now, sometimes you turn to the cameraman Rowan and go, well, if you didn't get it, we've just not got it. Which is just so funny.
It's maybe difficult, isn't it?
It's true though. Like, it does sharpen you in a way. And that a lot of people message, especially during COVID, like, you know, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do this. How do I get numbers? And I was like,
don't ask us.
First of all, don't ask us because we don't have a fucking clue.
When people ask me advice on how to start a podcast, I'm always like, fuck me. Like,
get a microphone and just start recording it and put it on something. And that it's that simple. And don't think about what numbers you're getting for it. I know it's very easy.
Well, look, like to take, for example, the Anthony podcast.
Right.
Your mate, you've done a podcast with him. Loads of people we know have done podcasts
Jack
with
May,
him.
Rory, or Blue Van Man.
He has some medical issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't matter. He's got himself up there and he's done it and he's putting it out and he's just putting his views out and and he's getting an audience.
Yeah.
And I look at him and I think, look, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Just do your fucking podcast, put it out, and hopefully people like it.
He's a doing man, isn't he? He's a man who does.
Credit to him.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is important.
Shout out to him if he's watching. We love you, man.
I mean, he definitely is watching.
Bless him.
But that's the point, is you've got to just be a doer. And sometimes in our industry, you've got ditherers.
Mate, do you know what's funny? My granddad gave me 2 bits of advice when I was a young lad. And I've really hung on to them, actually. And I wouldn't say, I'm not saying that, the brains of Britain here, but it really stuck with us and it was bang on. He said, Brian, there are 2 kinds of people in this world. There are beers and doers. Don't be a beer. Be someone who does. You know what I mean? Right. And I know it sounds basic, but the more I grew up, the more people I met who were like, oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to do the other. And never amounted to shit, you know what I mean? Because they actually didn't put the graft in. And the second thing he said to me was, if you're ever a manager of a company, employ people who are self-motivated. Because you don't want to have to fucking motivate anyone. You want people who get up, do it themselves, and don't need fucking arse wipe and all of that shit. Because he was a manager of a company, actually.
What company did he manage?
Ironically, he was a manager of a cigarette company.
Really?
Yeah.
What, like they made cigarettes?
Yeah, like back in the day, there was a huge cigarette factory up north.
Wow,
and he was
that's
one of
cool.
the top guys there. He didn't even smoke, ironically.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But you don't even think of that nowadays.
No, it's mad, isn't it?
You don't even think, first of all, you don't even really think of people making cigarettes like that. But secondly, like the fact that he was the manager of a cigarette factory, I can instantly get this image in your mind of him. That's really cool.
I was quite a lot like my granddad. Was
he a big guy or not?
Very broad. Looking back at it, the hairy chest and the thick legs and stuff and the big back. My granddad never lifted weights, but he just had this like bare look to him, you know what I mean?
Do you see what I'm saying though? Like, I'm thinking a lot about what you leave behind. And the thing you're talking to me about is what your granddad said to you. Not what you watched on TV last week, which I know influences you in the short term. But ultimately, like, what your granddad said to you, and when you look at a photo of him, that's like a legacy. Do you know what I mean? And I think we underestimate that. And I watched the Prince Philip. Prince Philip's passed away. Sorry for spoilers. I watched the Prince Philip...
How will it end?
Stuff. Yeah, The Crown is ruined for everyone. I watched the Prince Philip stuff, and the amount of time they were talking about his legacy and how much he'd left behind and all this stuff. And
why did you watch it?
I was morbidly curious about who he was, and I thought, to be fair, this is a historic event that someone who will go down in history is dying.
I literally could give 2 shits about him, Milo.
Right? Yeah, but.
I'm not saying that to try and be anti-royal or cool.
No, I get it.
It's just genuinely like, I can't believe that I live in a country where some of my money every month gets taken and gets given to those fucking cockroaches. Right. I can't fucking believe it. I can't fucking believe it, mate.
Having said that, the point that I was making is definitely atheist of royalty. What I mean is, he's an older guy who's got a legacy to his own family, and it really... I'm just thinking a lot about that at the moment. And part of me wonders whether taking down the royals would be my greatest legacy.
I mean, I'm down.
If I could leave that behind. If we could leave that behind, not in like a Guy Fawkes sort of way, but I mean in like a,
Rovan could be our infiltrator.
Oh no, Rovan's going to film the whole thing. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, legacy-wise, you're talking about what your granddad said, and I imagine there are a lot of people. And what I thought when I looked at the Philip stuff with, why are we heroing this guy? I had a granddad who was also interested in science. He just didn't have a, Ronald McKenna Award. He just had, Prince Philip has got the Duke of Edinburgh Award. And I'm like, so?
I mean,
What did you do to get an award?
The royal family are bollocks, mate. And do you know what fascinates me?
He did
about
look like
that,
a
though?
bollock in a way, didn't he?
What fascinates me about it is, in social media, you will often see things deliberately promoted on your timeline to make it look like genuinely this is actually trending and everyone cares about it. I'll give you an example. WWE.
Yeah.
Right? No one really gives a fuck about the wrestling.
Right.
But for some reason, it trends all the time. How do you think that happens? Because they're paying Twitter to make sure it fucking trends. The fact that the royal family or whoever works with the royal family clearly paid to promote the death of an old man, to make sure that it appears like everyone still gives a shit. Brilliant. So that we will all end up talking about it as we are right now and going, did you hear about that? Did you? No one cares. No one gives a fuck, right?
Yeah.
Very few people give a shit about this old man. He was insignificant most of his life.
Yeah.
Like,
even to her.
he was a bystander to the main event, which was her, and even she did jack shit.
Sure.
Let's be honest. She sat back, took the money, while the prime ministers took the fall one by one by one.
Have you seen The Crown?
I have, actually.
Oh, right, okay. What did you make of it?
It was actually fairly entertaining.
Right, but, it didn't make you think, oh, the Queen's amazing.
No, it's just sort of chewing gum for the brain. It was like, you know, basically, the long story short, he was a bastard to her when he was younger.
And to a few other people down the years, if you know what I mean.
She's quite a cold, unemotional woman.
Really?
Her sister was a shagger and a drunk.
Was that Mary? What was her sister called?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Charles is a complete letdown to them and a bit of a loser, and he doesn't man up the way Philip wants him to.
Right.
They then put Diana in front of him, despite clearly he wants to shag Camilla. Diana is then struggling.
So he made poor life decisions, sort of thing.
Yada.
Right, okay.
They take all the money.
And ultimately, what I find weird about it is because they have all the money, we think their stories are any different to ours. But actually, if you'd have put that same story in a council estate, people would have judged it differently. It's true, though, isn't it?
They're literally on the biggest council estate in the world because
Yes.
it is council funded.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
But that's my point, is if you took that story and you put it on like what poor people are, people would be so judgmental of that. But because it's the Queen and because it's the royal family, they go, what she's been through. Good God.
Literally,
what a life.
It makes me fucking sick, mate. Honestly.
Does it really?
Like,
Does it make you angry?
No, mass psychology pisses me off. If there's one thing I've learned in the last 2 years, it's just the way like groupthink is. It does my head in.
Right.
People are so easily just like we're giving money every month to a family because they're quote unquote royalty. This is mental. Like, so I've gotten to a stage now where I don't engage in that. I don't read it. I don't look at it. Same with COVID. Like, I'm completely powerless. I don't talk about it anymore. Like,
sure. Do you give up in a way?
No, I've given up because the one thing I completely believe is like, you just got to look after your own and you and hope that the rest of the world don't fuck you over in the process.
Okay. I kind of get that.
Like, honestly. Like, there ain't no... Oh, we're all in this together.
Boulder Dash.
Bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit.
Boulder Dash would have been a great word to use there. Having said that, how can I put it? Like, do you think the holistic side of you is also growing as well? Do you think that, like, you know, while you're doing the boxing and everything else, do you think your emotional intelligence is thriving in the same way as you wanted it to?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Really? What, you think it is thriving?
I just think I'm becoming more aware of other people's feelings as I get older.
Oh, that's definitely true. Yeah, I agree with that. I think you are more aware of everyone else around you now.
Sometimes that can be quite a painful thing, you know, when you realise you've hurt someone's feelings or when you realise the situation isn't what you thought it was or whatever.
Right.
It can be difficult.
Do you think you're better at dealing with that as well now, though?
I think the older you get, the more you take stuff to heart, actually. I think when you're younger, you can brush stuff off and be a bit more like, yeah, whatever. Next one.
Life will change. Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, moving on. Who cares? Or, you know, whereas when you get a bit older, I think you feel situations more. And maybe it's because when you're younger, you've just got so much strength, partially because of naivety, but partially because the time is on your side and every decision you make can be undone or redone. Whereas,
or at least it feels that way.
Yeah, now I'm getting a bit older. I'm like, okay, you know, if I hurt someone's feelings or something like that, It means more to me, and I think being a better person means more to me than what it used to, in every way, actually.
Right.
So I'm really like focused on self-development and stuff like that, and I think I've always been someone who wanted to be better year on year, and I think unfortunately some of that is very much a struggle, like as in like if you're constantly trying to improve everything about you, it will be difficult. So like I said in that rebuild last episode, I was like, I think I've just got to sort of try and take things one challenge at a time, or at least not spin the plates quite as fast as what I had been trying to, because clearly that wasn't working for us. And now I think I'm just cutting myself a bit more slack, but also just being more aware.
Yeah, I think that's quite an accurate description of probably what you're going through right now.
Yeah. I had a bit of a moment, which you know about a few months ago, where I just sort of had a bit of a meltdown, and I was just shouting a lot. I was unhappy. I was like upset,
Frustrated.
and yeah, it was just a awakening of like, this can't continue. This like I'm not good. Yeah, I'm not good. My depression had just gotten right a hold of us, and yeah. It was bad. Do you know what I mean? So I think
it was quite isolating for you as well, wasn't it? Because it's very difficult. I think is it like probably Gio and I were probably the people who were closest to you or like worked with you most in that time. And it's quite strange, because I guess the advice very often, like you say, if depression takes hold or whatever you want to say, is reach out to someone. But that is actually part of, I think, what your problem was depression can make it very difficult also to reach out to people, and it can be extremely isolating, and it can make the people around you feel isolated. So you don't really know what to do.
This is the thing where it's hard, because yes, talk to someone is good advice, but the problem is often it is good people who have depression partly because of that goodness, like they're beating themselves up because they are, and the last thing they want to do is tell their friend, hey mate, all right, yeah, I think about killing myself every day.
Right.
That ain't what you want to put onto your friend and worry your friend, and then create this whole big situation. So you just shoulder it, and
you internalize it, and keep it to yourself, right?
and you start losing the will to carry on. So when little things go wrong, as they naturally do in life, there was overreactions from me, there was anger, and then when other people, so you're an understanding person, but if someone else isn't understanding, and then they don't realize what I'm going through, they then can't tailor their behavior a bit to take the edge off when they don't know I'm ready to fucking snap. You know what I mean? So it was just difficult. Life was really hard.
When you say snap, you sort of mean like just spiral rather than but take everyone's life in the building. I think
snap sounds like I'm going to turn up with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Snap for me was more like, not wanting to live. Yeah. Negative, like down, miserable, sadness. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's been a weird time, really. But
how did you like?
I'd say it got to a point where every single day I was having suicidal thoughts, and like it was sometimes multiple times a day, and it would just be like when things were getting too much, it was like, and this might sound fucking mad, right? But I'm gonna say it anyway. It's okay, because if it gets too much, you can just end your life.
Right.
And that was almost like a comforting thing that I would tell myself, like, it's all right, if this gets too much, you can just end it. It almost became like a light at the end of the tunnel, like
reverse nihilism sort of thing.
Yeah. So rather than fearing death, I was actually looking at it like, oh, thank fuck I've got that there, if anything, like, if I need it.
Which in realistic terms is really like, that's quite it's not a sad place, it's quite a dark, twisted place to be.
That shows how bad it was. Do you know what I mean? That was an anticipation, not a fear.
Right.
And it was just constant. And the more things got difficult, the more things I felt weren't how I wanted them to be in my life, and the worse I felt, the more that got more and more and more appealing, and darker and darker and darker. And I remember obviously things happen, and sometimes you're having a bad run or whatever in life. And then one day I remember waking up and I just had like a whole night of nightmares, and I was like, wow, like what the fuck? Like, I just can't do this anymore. Like, I can't, like, if I don't do something now, I'm definitely not going to see, like, I'm not going to carry on. You know what I mean? All I was waiting for was the moment for everything to align for me to have a bad enough day to just say, fuck it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, I rang the doctors up and I basically told them everything. And I got an understanding, really, that, you know, there's depression that's like circumstantial depression, where it may be triggered by something, but once that thing sort of goes away or clears up or feels better over time, your depression also goes away with that.
Yeah, right.
And you go back to being the sort of person who you were before that event took place. But then there's clinical depression. And I think, you know, clinical depression is a chemical thing. It's something that your brain is not, you know, chemically balanced the way it needs to be. So therefore, you're always going to be depressed no matter what happens throughout your day. And obviously, for the longest time, I was putting it down to this, I was putting it down to that, you know, and obviously I'd had a hard few years. So I was like, okay, it'll get better, it'll get better, it'll get better. And it just was getting worse and worse and worse. And the doctor prescribed us some antidepressants. So I was like, fuck me. At this point, I'll fucking try anything. I'll try anything. Yeah, I'm so fucking sick of this. So I took them. First week was weird.
Because they start you off on a lower dose of antidepressants to sort of almost like ease you. I know it sounds strange, but let's just ease you into these antidepressants.
I see why.
So what was the...
I felt dizzy as fuck for the first week.
I remember you saying that every time you get up, even like, I think... I'm not being mean when I say this, but you weren't always 100% sort of present in that first week, if that makes sense. You were still talking, but you weren't always... there wasn't that quite same like drive that I guess I was used to, if that makes sense.
If you feel dizzy as... Like, do you know... You remember the fairground, the thing called the waltzer?
Yeah.
And they'd spin you really fast around on it. And then you'd get off and you'd be like, whoa.
The whole week.
That was what it was like a lot.
Even when you're trying to go to sleep and like you're...
So that was another thing. My sleeping pattern was completely fucking ruined. I went from getting like a good 6, 7, 8 hours to 4 max.
Right.
And then I'd be awake.
Is that 4 like you, and then you wake up and just be awake from 3 a.m. and then you just can't get back to sleep?
Yeah. Not the only problem either.
Right. As in, you couldn't even get yourself off to sleep.
Feel a bit there was let's just leave it at that.
A lethargy of sorts.
Yeah, the cock wasn't great.
But does that stop your mental need for that as well, or did you still have the mental need?
I think you still get it was just, you still look at things and go, that's all right, but like physically it was just
hard to achieve.
I don't know how to put it. Long story short is you can get an erection, but it may not be like the same, or if you try and do anything with it, you're just wasting your fucking time, sort of thing.
I get what
so it was just the whole, but that wasn't even like put it this way, bro. I enjoy sex.
Yeah,
it's a very big part of my life, and it's important to everyone.
Yeah.
For me to just go, fuck it, I don't even care. That's how bad I felt mentally.
That's one of your 3 pillars gone, essentially, isn't it? Yeah.
Genuinely, like as a man, when you can't even do that, and it's just like, nah, fuck it. I was like, if I don't do something about this, I am literally going to end up dead. Mm-hmm. So I gave it a shot, you know what I mean? And I wanted to wait before we spoke about this because I knew inevitably we'd share it, because we do talk about mental health a lot. But I also wanted to know how this was going to go before I even mentioned I was on them. Mm-hmm. And that the beginning was rough. Felt a bit hungover first couple of weeks. Yeah, but the suicidal thoughts got better. Yeah, fairly quickly actually. Fairly within about 2 weeks, I started noticing. I'm not thinking about it as much.
And when you're reflecting on them now, do you think you're developing ways to kind of catch yourself if you do end up going down that route again, or like you're more aware of it now?
No, I'm still on the meds. They upped the dosage after I think it was a month, and I've definitely felt. Look, life is life. You have good days and bad days. That is not what this stops. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you're constantly happy at all. If anything, I just feel like it makes me a bit more like the way I used to be before I had the depression. And it made me realize, like, all this time that I was thinking, oh, this made us down, or this made us down. And maybe that played a part, because obviously post-traumatic stress disorder, which I've had multiple times, is a factor in sort of permanently changing your brain. But this definitely seemed to cushion those bad days and just make me feel less, like, I'd wake up in the morning feeling like I wanted to die, and now I don't. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm great, but it's not as bad for sure. And I'm very grateful to have the tablets. Like, and it, you know, it's just been such a weird experience for me to finally go and take them, because obviously for a long time I was like, you know, I'm a man at the end of the day. My leg's got to be falling off before I ring a doctor.
And there is that weird mixture of kind of, the more masculine side of you not wanting to go down that route.
Well, you know, because I'm attached to my mind, and as a creator especially, like, you feel like everything you are is your brain ultimately, like, you know, anyone does. And, you know, when you need tablets to feel all right, there's a certain stigma that comes with that, which is exactly why I'm talking about it right now. Because when I told certain friends of mine that I was on them, like, a lot of people were like, all right, yeah, cool.
Great,
like,
good job.
But there was a couple of mates who were just like, what? Like, as if I was like, I'd had a lobotomy.
Right.
You know, like, as if half of my brain had been operated on or whatever. Like, I was like, no, it's all right. Like, they're actually helping us a bit.
Yeah.
But they were like, are you sure?
Right.
And like, still it was like, I don't agree with that. Like, it's just, you know. And I was like, I'm all right. It's still me, you know.
But that's kind of, it's also...
You haven't lost me.
But that's what I guess some people do. Some people don't react very well to change in other people's lives. So even, like, what's strange about it is, if you are depressed and then you tell someone you're about to change, that can change the parameters in their world, if that makes sense.
Well, and also I think, you know, some people who are scared to try them themselves and maybe need them themselves are possibly, you know, a bit wary of it, and it frightens them a little bit maybe. But, you know, look, it was a difficult first month, and since then, look, it ain't been rosy, and it doesn't just turn everything great. But I just think it's the dramatic of how low it got for me.
Right.
It's taken the edge off in that regard, and you know, now when I feel down, look, I might still have the odd thought like that, but the frequency, and you know, I can say this now because I feel like I'm better, not great, but better. It was unbelievable how often and how bad the anxiety was and how bad the low moods were. And like, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Do you know what I mean? Because like, I get for like other people watching, it's like, well, you know, you're doing well, you got this on the other going, but it's like, none of it mattered. I couldn't shake it. Like, it was just like, I do not want to be here.
Which also shows like how much and how little those things mean around you, like that. Like how it's actually just about, there is a spiritual side that you need to sort of fulfill. There is like a personal side that you need to fulfill. No matter how many YouTube videos you can put out, no matter how many views you get, all those things, it wasn't really about that element of it.
Yeah, like I there was a chemical issue as far as I'm concerned, because now I'm just like, the how I was able to do what I was doing, not actually wanting to really live, you know, it's quite something, to be fair to us.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the lockdowns and stuff definitely didn't help either.
Do you think sometimes you are sort of like, where do you think that do you think you may have been predisposed to at some point reach this point in your life? And I don't mean like destined for it, but do you think there is like something in you that, you know, mentally maybe you might be genetically more predisposed to be depressed or any of these things? Because I definitely think that some of this can run in a family, and I don't know whether it's nature or nurture is the only thing.
I mean, I think with everything it's probably a bit of both, to be honest with you. But I think I'm someone who considers a lot and thinks a lot, and I live in my own head, and I definitely talk to myself a lot and have like long form podcasts with with myself. I'm that type of person. So I think people who are deep thinkers, they're the ones to watch out for. happy-go-lucky, take it easy kind of people, I feel like they're less likely to reflect as much. And it's the people who look back a lot and the people who worry about the future a lot. They're the ones who are more likely to get depression.
Right.
People who live in the now, those fuckers, those lucky bastards, they're the ones who I think are doing it right. But it's very, very difficult to do that when you do have regrets about the past, or you do have heartache in your past, and you are worried about the future and fear of the future. And for some people, it just gets a hold of them a hell of a lot more. And
are you a bit more present now then? So you're more like living now?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, it ain't my nature. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what we've always been like. Even if we do a really good YouTube video, I'm a bit like what you said earlier about like, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. If they're achieving something that they're really happy with, it makes them feel on top of the world. So when a good YouTube video goes up, it's a nice feeling. But it's such a short-lived one because I am such a like everyday kind of, we need to do this, and this.
How long does that window last? Do you even have a window of that anymore? Because I think there is a point where we've probably done the Rebuild 2 or something like that. And I don't even think your window of feeling good lasted more than 15 minutes after the upload, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not even that. I actually think I remember at the time you saying to me, I don't even really feel that good about that.
Yeah, I think that was the height of my depression.
Yeah.
That was why, if I'm being completely honest, I talked about my mum in that video, was because I thought, if I kill myself, I want everyone to know what I thought about my mum.
Right.
As like the lasting impression, because right now with the way I'm feeling, I don't even give a fuck anymore. And that was something I'd held on to for a little while.
Is that like a fear that you wouldn't have spoken about that, like let that out?
Yeah, it was sort of like, to without going too deep into it, very much like, she's my property, she is mine forever. And I didn't want to give her over to the internet, you know what I mean? But that was the point that I'd reached. That was how low I'd gotten, was it was like, this, I don't know how much longer I've got left here in my head. Like, I was genuinely just so low. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to put it out there so that if I do ever do anything, at least that's there.
And people know about that.
Well, because when you talk about legacy, what I say in that video is, if you want to know who I really am, I'm just a kid who misses his mum.
Right.
And that, in my head, was what I wanted people to think of me as. And that, for me, was a little bit of like, at the time, like a goodbye message of sorts. Like, I know that might sound mental because in the video I'm doing boxing and I seem motivated and all of that, but like, that was part of the reason I left it in. Do you know what I mean? Because I just thought, like, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen here.
Which is a strange place. It's a very strange place to be in if you're kind of leaving very subtle legacy messages behind, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's you never know why someone's doing what they're doing, really. You know what I mean?
Which is why it is very strange, isn't it? And especially when you think of where you put it and like how. But
that was just a freak thing that happened and was caught on camera, and that was a moment where I had to choose of like, do I want to do this or not? And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and I remember there was just a day where it was like rock bottom, and that was when I was like, yeah, I'm doing it, because I might not be able to do it in a year's time or whatever, so I'm doing it.
And how do you feel about it now? Like, are you still glad that you did it?
Yeah, I am.
I think a lot of people since then have sort of maybe realised more about why you are the way that you are since.
Yeah, and it was nice to sort of let that out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And really let out the most personal thing about me. And I know a lot of people wouldn't be able to do that. And it's quite a powerful thing. Like, there's strength in vulnerability, isn't there? So.
Did you ever look back at the first podcasts that we did and sort of the difference in your demeanour then and the stories even that you tell? Your focus on sex in those podcasts, just to be absolutely clear, is unbelievable.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? It's like, I don't know if I like that person, do you know what I mean? So I tend to avoid them.
Right, I had a very similar reaction when I was watching all this back.
I do avoid
you're
them.
A dick.
Yeah,
not you know.
There's some things I say and I'm like, fuck's sake. But, also like, I was just a young lad who, like I say, I was literally fresh off of an industry that is just like that, you know what I mean? So my whole my whole attitude was masculinity personified. Like, so
it's funny.
I just wasn't ready to go. I wasn't mature. There was a lot of shit that I had to get through and deal with, and this was a fun adventure, and I didn't know how it was going to go.
I think you savor it a bit more now, but in a different way. Like, if we were to treat making videos as a steak now, you take the time to make decisions about the steak you want now. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think in the past, when you first came down to London, you get off the train, we'd meet. Every week you'd insist on Shake Shack. Like, religiously, you'd insist that we went to the same place for the same preparation, for the same way. Maybe I'd totally forgotten about that. Yeah, and we go to Shake Shack in Covent Garden, and we go through, we line up, we go and sit down, we chat, we talk about the podcast, and then we get an Uber to the studio, which was in Camden at the time, and then we do the podcast, and then you'd go and stay in a hotel for the night, and then the next day you'd shoot, and then you just go home. And to think how much your life has changed since then is mad. You haven't had Shake Shack in years.
It's amazing what you can do when you're passionate about something, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what this all was, is like
unlocking that and sort of like discovering that you could do that.
But that's why I managed to keep on going during depression, is because I am passionate about this. So it's like, even when I don't like stuff, that like I don't like living, I can still do this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I've been able to carry on doing the kickoff and just for that moment be true Geordie for that, before going back to...
I think that for a little while became a bit of a ball and chain sort of scenario for you, though, where you were like carrying around being true Geordie for a little while. And I'm not sure, if you're being honest, whether you wanted to keep being... whether you wanted to keep being true Geordie, or whether you were you felt that was still holding you back a little bit.
I really don't want to talk like I'm third personing this, by the way.
Sure.
So I don't, but I get what you mean.
It became, I think, for a little while, the image of you had become that you saw and that you felt was that people saw you had become like a weight rather than that character that had allowed you to be so different to me.
I think I just hated myself.
Right. And you didn't quite know where the true Geordie element ended and the
Brian because you're evolving, and this is what I'm into, self-development. But part of the problem is when you grow as a person and you look back at what you used to be, sometimes you hate it, and it's not that I'm, a lot of people fell in love with that character and the person I was at the time, and there's still happy memories there, and I made them laugh, and for that I'm grateful. But there's just so many things I've regretted in that time, and part of growing up and being a man is learning to live with those regrets. And sometimes that can be where I'm the type of person to punish myself internally and be like, you did this, you did that, you shouldn't have been like this, you shouldn't have been like that, How does that resolve? Well, when you punish yourself, do you ever get anything out of that? Like, do you think that does allow you to move on? There are lasting impacts, hence the depression, you know what I mean? Because
the scars that are left.
Because if you keep telling yourself that you're a shit person over and over and over again, and that you are this and that you are that, eventually it's just becomes your identity. And almost having people tell you you're great, it actually kind of weirdly makes it worse, because it's like you go on camera, you be this person, because in that moment I go, boom, welcome back to the kickoff or whatever, and we're having a laugh with the boys, and for that moment, and I am happy being with the boys. It ain't like I'm being fake, because it's nice to be with the boys, but once you go back into normality, it's like when you read YouTube comments or whatever, sometimes you can read nice ones and be like, yeah, but I feel like this, but sometimes you can, if you're constantly depressed and then you read bad comments, it's reinforcing it. So there was just a lot of a difficult situation to do, because if you've got depression and you are in any job, it's difficult. But YouTube is a weird one, because there's constant feedback. There's feedback from other people. There's feedback from the commenters. There's feedback from your friends.
And then your own mental monologue.
Am I living up to the standard? So it's a constant review system every single week.
But you weren't happy with the kickoff for quite a while. I remember a lot of shows you go, it wasn't quite the show that I wanted to make. Or you and then more recently you started to go, I think that was the best show we've made in ages then.
Yeah. I guess the point I'm making is just not specifically about the kickoff, but just battling depression while being in front of camera is a strange thing to go through. Do you know what I mean? Because the whole point of depression is you don't really want to do anything. The last thing you want to do is sit in front of a camera and be entertaining. And it's been difficult to do that for as long as I have now. You know, I've probably been battling depression seriously for well over a few years, you know. So, you know, it got worse and worse and worse as it went into that. And yeah, mate, it's I'm feeling more motivated now on these tablets, and you know, I don't feel like a different person. I don't feel like I've lost who I was. I still have my low days. I just feel like I've got a little bit more protection from my own negative thoughts because they're not as dominant or as overbearing, and my brain is able to, like, one of the things that I used to enjoy most is if I had a drive and the sun was shining, you put the window down, put some nice music on, you know. Here's the thing. I remember like a year ago or whatever, I did that in the summer. And I remember still feeling so shit about myself, and even like a good tune where you're like, yeah, like it did nothing for us. I still felt like I just put the window up and I was just like, but this is but I couldn't even enjoy a tiny little thing like that. I was like, I think because at my peak of being an arsehole, I was driving around in a flashy car listening to cool tunes and, you know, roof down and all of that shit. I really hated that person. So now when I'd have the window down in the sunshine and the music on, it reminded me of that. And I hated that guy. So even when, and obviously that guy is me, I'm not sort of detaching from it. I'm just saying like I'd grown from where I was there. So I didn't want to remind myself of like, I didn't want to get carried away again or go back to those old bad habits, you know what I mean? So even those sort of things made me like...
Yeah. It's a bit like that Phoenix story where like the Phoenix, everyone thinks of like the Phoenix rising from the flames as if the flames are a bad thing, but apparently the flames are a good thing because it's burning off all the stuff it doesn't need. And like in many ways you're shedding yourself of that your self-image of being that guy in the car, those kind of things that you didn't really like.
I've done this many times throughout my life though.
Yeah,
that's the weird thing, because like it's something I am prone to doing. So like when I left high school, I felt a certain way about that person in high school. So I tried to reinvent myself in college as a better version of myself. And, you know, this is a new chance, a new start, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, maybe the same in diving, and maybe then after diving I try to reinvent myself, and in YouTube I've now tried to be a different version of that. And
then we went to Twitch, and then you thought, well, this is a fresh start.
I'm not saying I look at everything like fresh start and that I don't take accountability for the past. What I'm saying is I'm very aware of what I used to be or who I have been, and I think about it a lot and I try and be better. And this is the most I've ever really tried to be a better person in my life and treat people better. And I think since going on the tablets, that was another thing, is like the week before I went on the tablets was like a real low point. Like I remember raising my voice a lot, and now I think I'm much more in control of myself.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
The sad thing is in that time, my dad's also been going through a really bad time with his mental health, and literally just as I'd started on the tablets, a couple of weeks, just cutting to the chase, my dad attempted suicide, and it was just really strange to go through that, like all at the same time. Like I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and
especially when you're changing the way that you're feeling.
Well, I was trying to. Obviously, it was still very early.
I don't know really how detailed you want to go, but like kind of when that happened, like what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too in depth for people because I know it can be quite triggering. But
how did you feel being around that at that time?
Yeah, well, okay. So basic details are, I became aware through some text messages he sent us that, what he was thinking about and what he was going to do. And luckily, I rang an ambulance immediately, and the ambulance got to him and took him in, and they managed to look after him and save him, basically. And just strange. I mean, I've told people about my dad's mental health problems in the past. Bipolar is what he suffers from, and it is the worst kind of bipolar. But this isn't something that is my dad, like he's like Kanye, he's hyper, he's creative, he's up and down, but not that down. He's if anything, he's been terrified of death his whole life. He's the biggest self-preservationist you've ever met, So for him to just say, fuck it, it was like a real, wow, what the fuck's happened here then? Because it ain't like him, that, And when it's your own dad, saying, that's it, I've had enough. Yeah, it can blow you away, you know what I mean? And it was just like, fucking hell, like I'm going through all this myself, and then my dad's feeling like that, and now, and I'm having to constantly ring, the ambulance, and is he all right, yada, yada, yada. And basically, like, he'd hit rock bottom, and I really knew that because he was just different to anything I'd ever heard before. Do you know what I mean? It was like, no one cares, there's just no point, I give up, sort of thing. And obviously, like, you say everything you can, but like, I know personally, there's just no magic word. Do you know what I mean? And my dad was clearly, like, he really needed proper help, because I had a phone call with him the day after, and in the space of like 30 to 60 seconds, he'd go from crying like awfully to laughing hysterically. And it was just like the strangest conversation of my life. Like, clearly he'd just gone. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but you were having a conversation that way.
I was on the phone for about half hour to an hour, and just trying to talk him around and trying to help, but he wasn't like himself at all. Like, bipolar is such a strange thing, and it was just like, I can't explain it. Like, it was just freaking me out, bro. Like, I was like, 1 minute he's crying, saying there's no point, and then like half a minute later, I was like, well, you know what I'm like, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, how do I deal with this? Like, what?
Also, what's the expectation of you to deal with that?
I mean, right. I'm a man, and I like to think that in most situations I keep me cool. I know what to do. But this was just another level to anything I'd ever experienced before. And it went, by the way, that carried on the entire conversation, like Jekyll and Hyde, flip-flop. Like, there's no point, crying, then laughing, then just back and forward. And it was just like, wow. Like, because my dad's been on medication for fucking 20 years or whatever it is. Like, so I'd not really seen it to that level before, where like, we have a serious problem here. And it ain't just like he's feeling down. There's just this is just, you don't really know what he's feeling at that point. You mean, there's a problem, but you don't really know what he's feeling because it's so... I've never talked to anyone who had lost their mind like that before, where, I was like Peter Pan chasing after the shadow on the wall, like that. Like, where are you, Dad? Like, who the fuck am I talking to here? Like,
that's actually really feels very relevant.
Like,
doesn't it?
I couldn't pin him down. I couldn't keep him in one place at one time on a level playing field. Like, he was seesawing all over in this conversation, and like, we were able to talk, but his emotions were just so erratic. And then I was like, I was trying to be like, it's difficult because I'm his son, but people who listened long enough know we've had a relationship which was difficult. Obviously, when I was younger, I went a long time without seeing him, but I'm still his son. But like, I'm also having to come at it as like, the parent.
And that happens at some point in everyone's life, doesn't it? But it's particularly hard in this.
It does. But I was trying to sort of, what have you done that for, you stupid idiot? Like trying to be sort of calm. Yeah. About a situation that isn't calm, and trying to be like, oh yeah, man, dad, yeah, I love you, and everyone, and reminding him and stuff like that. But like, he was just so like, this is over, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it was really hard to talk to him, and the team were keeping an eye on him, and there's a crisis team, and they keep an eye on him, and they're very aware of what's going on, and then they sort of start tweaking the medication and all that and that. But long story short, something else happened a few days later, and I was just like I'm like, are you fucking, do you know what you're doing here with him? Because he's a serious man, me dad. Like, I was like, I'm going to keep it honest. I said, he's fucking hurt people physically in his life, and you better know what you're handling here. And I said, I ain't seen any improvement. He's getting worse. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, we're very aware of that. We are paying attention. I was like, okay. Because, I don't know what the fucking best for him is. Like, I'm relaying everything I can to them to say, look, this is what he's like normally. This is what he's like now. What's happening? And then they sectioned him a day later, which... What
does that involve?
They have to basically get a signature off of... doctor, etc., and basically by law you're getting locked up in a mental hospital, and inside this mental hospital, it looks a lot like a prison, you know what I mean, in his room and stuff like that. It's not like fucking, it's not sitting there with PlayStations and shit like that, you know what I mean. It's pretty miserable, and if you are feeling down, it's probably not going to cheer you the fuck up, if I'm honest with you. Right. So whether or not that was the best thing to happen, it made me feel like, look, these are the professionals. He's in the right hands. They're going to know what to do. Do you know what I mean? So it's been really a challenging couple of months.
That's a lot to deal with as well, especially when you're having a conversation with someone like that, because I can kind of, you can hear it in your voice, but like, you want to tell someone you love them on the phone, and you want to have a normal conversation with them, and you almost want to go like, come on, dad, snap out of it, sort of thing, and you can't really do that. But at the same time, it's a bit of a minefield of a conversation, because you don't know that what you might say could be a triggering thing, or could be you're being very careful with what you say to that person as well.
It's very hard, because not only that, like, he is needing me to be there for him, and there's been many occasions where I've needed him to be there for me, and he hasn't been, and it hurt me, and he knows. And look, but he knows.
You squared that away
as best I can. It's difficult. You know what I mean? But I've been as good a son as I can be, considering what has gone on in the past, and it is hard, because I'm like, I want to be there for you, and there's certain things that I was saying to try and make him feel better, but it's difficult, because he's let me down sometimes in his life, and he knows that, and now I'm sort of in this weird position where I've sort of got to be there for him, and yeah, it's hard. It's just hard. Like, there's a lot of things going on, and
your relationship maybe wasn't quite in the place to deal with this as a thing.
I do love him, and he knows that, and he does seem to be getting better, which is good. Finally, and he's had a few wobbles, and some of the phone conversations have been, even a little bit funny at times. You have to find the humour in situations sometimes. Like, there's someone dropping off his laundry in his room, and I'm on the phone to him, and I'm like, "Are you all right, Dad?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm totally chilled. I'm absolutely fine." And I'm like, there's part of me that's like, "Is he just saying this for me?" Right. And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm on the phone. And the porter or whatever leaves the room, and he's like, "Fucking stupid prick. Can they not say I'm on the fucking phone?" Like, and I'm like,
And that's the level personality that we're just looking for you to be okay.
You know what it is, right? That's partly me. You know, like,
Yeah.
I have a very bizarre, cocktail of personalities that made me, in that my mum was a very soft and gentle and kind person, and my dad is wild.
And in many ways, it's strange because that soft and gentle person that your mum was is now helping you to deal with the man that your dad is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, it is strange when someone has, to the level that he has had, those mental health issues. And, it can be difficult. And one thing you have to realise is sometimes when you've got someone in your family who's like that, is there is no magic pill that will be given to them. They will not come out and just be normal. Like, he's always going to have certain things about him that are challenging for people around him, because like I say, he's like Kanye. Like, he's just up and down and intense, and he finds it hard as well. I'm trying to say it from his point of view, is imagine, like, you're in a mental hospital, but let's be real, you've been locked up, and with everyone else who gets locked up, they get a release date. Now, that might be 30 fucking years down the road. But he's like, you get put in here and you don't know when the fuck you're getting out, ever.
Right. So you have nothing to aim for in that sense, right?
And if you do the wrong thing to the nurses or the doctors, you just fucked yourself, because they're less likely to trust you. And no one trusts the word you say. So, like, you're speaking, but really everyone takes everything you say with a pinch of salt.
It's a catch-22 in a way, because if you're honest about how you're feeling and you go, I'm feeling depressed today, then they go, depressed, okay, feels, and everyone's making the notes in the room, but you're condemning yourself possibly to a bit longer in there. So do you lie and get out and think you can deal with it yourself, which, by the way, you probably can't trick mental health doctors.
I'm sure they're only human, though, and they do, and I'm sure they get certain things wrong. Let's be honest. There's many times people have been let out and done shit before. Do you know what I mean? So,
otherwise, if we knew about it, we'd just fix things instantly, wouldn't we?
Yeah. What annoyed me is that I had conversations with them about my dad's well-being, and naturally, I was like, look, I want to give you as much information to help you as possible, but what I don't want you to do is tell my dad any of this, because otherwise it might upset him, yada, yada, yada. And, I had those conversations. By the way, I had conversations with like 5 different fucking doctors. Right. And I had to keep repeating myself over and over. My dad rings us up and he's like, yeah, they're not letting us out. They said one of the main reasons was because of what you said. And I'm like,
thanks for that.
Fuck's sake.
Surely that's like one of the worst things you can say to someone.
That was the first thing they come out with, right? And I was like, throwing me under the bus, because you don't want my angry dad blaming you lot, so you'd rather him blame me, you fucking pussies, or whatever.
That's really bad, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it fucked me off, to be honest with you. But
it's also because you've also taken like quite a brave decision to say something to someone that could be, it's being, for want of a better term, being cruel to be kind. So you're saying something that's hard, but it's for the best. Well, and those people have basically gone, thanks for that. We're now going to use it in the worst way possible.
Yeah, and look, there was multiple hours and hours. You remember when we were in the middle of work and I stopped work and I said, look, I've got to take this call.
Yeah.
So many hours I've spent on the phone with these people, and a lot of them have been extremely kind and caring people, and everything you'd want to be around a loved one who is having an episode. And but obviously, somewhere along the line the communications went, and it's frustrating, but I ain't gonna fucking
dwell on that. No.
Yeah, ultimately that I get they're trying their best, and I'm grateful for it. It's just it's not a nice thing to go through, but I think I think the worst bit was that night. The worst bit is for anyone, if you get a call or a text or anything like that where someone is on the brink and you're at a point of calling an ambulance to and thinking, I hope it gets there in time, that sort of shit.
It's quite a panicked sort of, it's quite a dark moment.
Awful. And it hit me for weeks afterwards.
Yeah, you could tell.
Yeah, like, just, and I was going through my own stuff as well.
I was going to say, it requires people to be quite sort of emotionally intelligent around you and to kind of hear what you're going through, because I'd imagine that it's also, because, I think, and I'll say this, and I mean it in the least flippant way possible, when someone tries to kill themselves and then it doesn't happen, you only really can be close to them to understand what that means for them, because everyone else is going, well, they didn't die. And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand everything else that's gone on to get to that point. And so I imagine that could be quite hard, even from the outside, just observing. People just go, well, he's alive, aren't you happy about it? But that's not the feeling you're left with, is it?
Well, especially not with someone who's as seriously mentally ill as my dad is,
right.
who's got like a lot of genuine issues like that. So
that's a hard one, though, because from the outside it can be people looking in, it can be very difficult.
I was spending a lot of time feeling that way myself, and then my dad's feeling that way, and he literally went to do it, and luckily it didn't work, and then the whole month afterwards is just like, what is the point in living? And it just takes a lot out of you. You know what I mean?
And you're not in the right mind space to maybe try and find out what the point is in living at that point, because you are
definitely not, you know. And obviously I'm trying to stay positive as possible for him when I'm on the phone with him and stuff like that. Life's just got so many ups and downs, it's fucking crazy sometimes,
And it does flip at some point between the parent and the child, when the child has to start parenting the parent, and that becomes more and more sort of constant rather than every now and again you might have, when you're younger. I remember this with my own parents, sort of having moments where, when you first think of something that they can't think of, or like you've got this moment where it's like, you feel like you maybe have surpassed them a bit, and it's quite a proud moment when you're young. But then as they're getting older,
well, it's when they get ill. That's the reality check. It's my dad's ill, know, and it's a strange one to feel like responsible, because they're literally ringing me as if I'm his dad, and I'm like, fucking mad this.
But with the sense of mortality around it, it's not just like, oh, he's got a little cough here. It's like life and death is a really serious thing. Yeah, and that's quite heavy for you to deal with, though. Yeah, mate, it's been strange, but I thought I talked to him. I said, I might mention this on the podcast, because we've been really open about stuff mental health wise, and I thought, it's important people hear this, because I'm guaranteeing that lots of people who've been through a suicide or an attempted suicide will be watching or listening. So, luckily I'm getting a little bit better. My dad seems to be getting a little bit better. So, that's one positive. At least it means there's going to be more true news in the near future. You feel good now. We can... Yeah, even podcasts. I tend to avoid podcasts when I'm really low, which is why they are so few and far between. Right. But it's been 5 years, guys. Yeah. But lately I have been trying to do more pods, because I am feeling a little bit more positive, and I am trying to, You've done a good job of those, by the way. Like, I feel like there was Elizabeth Smart, and who's the other person? You did Jake Paul. James Arthur as well. And James Arthur, yeah. I like James Arthur a lot. He was a bit of a kindred spirit. You could kind of tell that. Yeah. And it was better for me not to be there for that one, because I feel like I would have not had that same kindred element that you two had. But you both seem to see things quite similarly, and you definitely both have a fuck you attitude to the rest of the world at some point. Yeah, I love that guy. Yeah, he's a bit of a bro of mine now. So we have the odd little message and that. And I think he's been understandably misunderstood. Like, I get why people have. That's a strange one. He's been understandably misunderstood, but I get it. You get what I mean? Yeah, like, totally, I get why people haven't got him. Yeah. But I hope they get him a bit better now. You know what I mean? Yeah, and you want that to... you know what's strange about it is you want people to be able to just shift and watch that podcast and see it, and sometimes people can just be a bit damning once they've made a decision about someone. It's like, nope, the decision is made, and he once made this mistake. I feel like that's like that with about Jake Paul a bit. Like, I think that's why loads of people couldn't quite see that he was going to win the fight. Which is bizarre. For me. I think it was bizarre for all of us, because I was watching a lot of people's preview videos, and I'll be honest, Brian, you were really going against the grain, if you know what I mean. Like, especially with the like big time pros and stuff. They all got it wrong. Yeah, but ultimately, fuck you. But the point is, it seemed quite obvious, but I did feel like emotion was clouding a lot of people's judgment. But what I was trying to work out was it emotional the other way that was clouding ours, where we really wanted a YouTuber to win? Bro, we really wanted I had to laugh, right? Because I watched the stream back on Twitch the other day, and
some of the comments were coming in as I was talking about Jake and why I thought he was going to win so convincingly. And they were like, Brian's going to look so stupid when Ben smokes it. And I was rereading it like, I wonder, like, even now I still can't, but I think I get it. Like, I think people see you in a UFC cage and they see the UFC gloves and they see the, like, Joe Rogan and the whole production, and they're like, this guy's a fighter. And they look at them like superheroes.
Yeah.
And the reality is they're not. Like, some of them are on the level. But if you're able to take all that away, and I think because I've seen Jake from day one and I've followed Ben, I didn't give a fuck about the fact that Ben was a UFC fighter or any of that. So this whole thing about, oh, he's so tough, he took the shots with the 4-ounce gloves. You know, even in my prediction video, I just broke it down elementary, like, so straightforward. Like, Ben can take punches, yes. He cannot fucking give them, though.
Right.
Like,
and he
this is boxing.
Yeah.
This is the sport of punching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I get that he can take one, but unless the thing is that he's just going to wait until Jake stops getting tired as he's late. Like, the whole notion that, you know, and the sad thing is some people were so gutted that they were proved so badly wrong. Because let's be real,
it's a fix, isn't it?
The first proper punch Jake landed on the head, he went down. He crumbled. Right. It didn't even take 2 or 3 punches. It took one proper punch. That's how easy it was for Jake. They're like, oh, it's a fix. It was a fake. And I'm like, you're embarrassing yourself.
Right.
Like, everyone gets it wrong, bro. Just admit it. The guy felt like a fucking tray, mate. He felt like this.
Yeah, like literally. You can't like, fake. That's very hard to fake,
bro. He woke up after he hit the floor, but he was out in that moment. He was completely gone, like unconscious. And I actually think Ben's a great guy. Like, I mean, fucking hating on him. Like, but it just kind of showed. It showed the natural qualities that Jake has at boxing and how he is good. But it also showed, like, you know, Ben had neglected those same striking elements for so long that when he needed to use them, he didn't have anything there, and he didn't have natural power. He was old, a bit out of shape, and Jake beat the fuck out of him. Like, and when people say it was stopped early, I'm like, what were you? The referee's job is to save that fighter when he is no longer able to defend himself. He was stumbling like a 90-year-old on a bus. When you know when he's trying to get from pole to pole on the bus, and he's like, he was like that. Jake would have badly hurt him.
So the strange thing is, I think the angle that we watched and the angle that most people are watching is head on. And when it's head on, the gloves look a bit higher because you're sort of, I know the top of the glove reaches like there. But when you watch from behind, there's a back angle that I watched that I went, that's why he stopped it.
Yeah,
because when you watch from behind it, he couldn't walk properly, and his hands kept doing this, which you couldn't see from the broadcast side. They kept going, the ref kept going, and up, and he'd go, yep, and then they go almost straight away, and they'd go back down.
He was so done.
Really done.
And it's one of the, you know, I've been getting crap off the MMA fans for years, but that really was the cherry on the cake. Like, for so many of them, they chat so much shit in my predictions time and time and time again, and for the way Jake just devastated him, like, with ease, with ease, right?
I can't think of where Jake goes next because I can't see anyone wanting that fight.
They'll be. I mean, so I think he just moves up a level in the MMA striking. So like, Ben was a poor MMA striker, he now goes to a better MMA striker.
Wow.
Or you know, there's like so there's that Dylan Dennis kid, there's KSI maybe,
let's be honest though, KSI is he's got so much stuff on. If you're making music and you're doing all this different stuff, you need a good 6 months or however many months to put in a proper camp to do that.
I'd back Jake to get in, JJ to get in shape.
I'm not saying that, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, you want that experience. Yeah. I'd back him to be. I think he'd be ready.
The amount of people who have gone. Well, Nate. Gib didn't go down. You know, actually credit to Gib. He was the only person who didn't go down in the same way as Ben.
This is the thing.
Nate.
You know, Gib has got a chin Like Gib got up 3 times, and
you've seen that in person as well, right?
Yeah, I've seen Gib take some shots in the gym. He is hard as fucking nails. That kid. He's fighting soon.
Yes,
he's fighting that TikTok lad.
And just because he's fighting someone from TikTok doesn't mean he's not hard. Like this other TikTok lad looks
good,
seriously good.
Yeah, he's got like good skills, and I've been impressed with some of the tiny little clips I've seen of like, all right, he's got the basics down. He's quite they say a cute fighter. Like he has like little movements where I'm like, oh, yeah,
well, that's nice what you've done.
Yeah, little he's tidy. You know what I mean? Whereas obviously Gabe is a fighter.
He's just a force.
Like and this is the thing. If you ain't ready for a fight and you're fighting Gib, he's gonna win. You have to be ready for a fight.
God, you know what I mean? Gib to win.
And credit like Jake. Like this was the thing when I went back to the prediction on the Ben thing. I was like, people are like you can't call what Jake's done worth anything because he hasn't fought anyone. I'm like, I'm sorry. He's dropped people. He's actually dropped multiple people. Ben's never dropped anyone, even in the early days. Never dropped anyone. I said 20 fights, never dropped anyone. 2 fights, dropped 3 times each fight. Like the data. You know when we talk about Bruce talks about the data. Bruce. I was like, the data's there. Actually. Yeah, it's fucking there. I never, when I watched it back, and I was like, I think this is easier for this.
Right.
It's like so
it's
many
insane.
times.
Yeah.
When the table are like laughing, and I'm like, he's gonna rip his head off.
Yeah.
It's like, badoosh.
And he actually almost, like if he'd have been allowed to continue, it would have been.
Well,
quite
this
different.
is I was gonna say about the early stoppage. If that had been allowed to continue, Jake Paul could have fucking, like, he could have killed him. Not like people die because they take unnecessary punches after being done.
And and often bloodthirsty people who don't really know about fighting want to see someone completely wrecked and finished because they're like, oh well, now he's wrecked and finished.
I'm glad because I like Ben, so I don't want to see him absolutely brutalized.
And you hate CTE, yeah.
Ben was leaving on a stretcher. If they'd let that go another fucking 10 seconds, you see Jake was posturing like
Jake was rushing back in, mate, and then the referee like steps in, almost like you know what's strange about it? The referee was almost he was looking at Ben and trying to get him to keep his arms up, and then the referee's like, yeah, that'll do. And then he sees Jake steaming in and goes, it won't do.
What's funny is everyone had a go at the referee for not stopping the Nate Robinson fight early enough. He let him up twice, and then he got literally flatlined. This time, the referee got it right. He saved this guy.
The referee was bad. Nate Robinson, in retrospect, wasn't he?
Yeah. So credit to Jake. He actually he messaged me saying you should be involved in the next thing. Like,
bro. What?
I don't know.
Maybe he saw your avatar and he thought, I'll message Rick Ross and tell him now.
Definitely not.
No, definitely not.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No, I think, because it may be something to do with the debatable production that was on the show.
Sure. Yeah, like, we can do a small room, but now what we're going to do is take on a whole fucking warehouse of things. That's a good idea.
What I will say is...
You need me to direct, absolutely.
If we are commentating at any point, I'm not saying we will be, but I don't think you'll hear me go, get my money, Jake!
Yeah.
Get my money!
Get my money!
Get my motherfucking 2 million!
I love that. You know what? I think I will still enjoy, and because it will be legal somewhere else, a passive high from Snoop Dogg. Secondary high, whatever you want to call it. I still enjoy hanging out with
next
Snoop.
to him. You get buzzed.
Exactly. You're just like, thanks, Uncle Snoop.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened to Oscar De La Hoya, who was clearly off his tits,
yes.
mate.
Yeah, that was unusual, wasn't it? That was unusual watching that back, that they allowed that to happen.
It was... Right now, I think they've gone full entertainment and don't really care about the boxing, aside from the main event.
Yeah.
Although... they did get some decent level boxers in there.
But it didn't show up until the main event.
They just talked over it as if it was not even happening.
Right. Well, there were times they cut away from it.
Yeah, it was so strange. I don't know if... I feel like maybe they want to get it more in the middle. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of ideas right now, and it was very much like watching an idea soup.
Yeah.
Just on your screen, and at some point someone's gone, and there'll be lots of bums, and everyone's going, okay, bums, yeah.
I
there was so much arse.
I'm not complaining about that. I've got to be honest.
But there was a lot of it though, wasn't there?
I like a whole lot of big ass.
Okay, and I get that, but then there were a load of old rappers, and I get that, and I'm all for it. Let's just shorten that down a little bit,
also, like, if you're going to have like a fight night, Justin Bieber ain't the guy, is he? I know he's got clout and all of that.
Whoa,
no, but let's be honest.
And you're like, am I?
Are we doing
up for this?
Should we not do aggressive music?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
get him to cover Linkin Park. Fucking sick. Yeah.
It's
Bring
weird.
me to life.
I get that.
Evanescence.
It's just weird, isn't it? It's just weird. So I totally hear you. Like, it looked like, let's just throw as much at the wall and hope it sticks.
Right. And then in the middle of it all is, what was the comedian called?
That Ben guy.
Was it Ben?
Pete.
Oh, Pete.
The blonde kid.
What's Pete's name?
Davidson.
Pete Davidson. Yeah, Pete. He was good because he was on screen basically making fun of the whole product.
No, but I think what you and I do is like, we both make little inside jokes about whoever's on screen.
Right.
But we also take it seriously. We also break the fight down. We also appreciate the athletes. Like, you have one of the OGs of the UFC in Frank Mir, who's getting into a boxing ring, things like that. There's so much you can talk about.
Right.
And I personally, huge fan of Frank. We've had him on the podcast. There's so much you can do with that. And the guy he was fighting, I think, was one of the first people to drop Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot that, so you can do sports chat with a little odd joke and a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek, make a bit of fun of Jake, make a bit of fun of Ben, but that was just a roast. And
yeah,
don't get me wrong, like, as much as some of the jokes were funny, and you obviously clearly had watched Ricky Gervais and thought, how am I going to do that sort of thing in this setting? But it was awkward. It wasn't. And if you've got like Snoop Dogg as your boxing guy and him as your host,
as your main boxing guy,
like, no wonder it was a bit of a shit show. Do you know what I mean?
It was two ends of the spectrum as well. I think, you know what you have to have is everyone who was on commentary was not the self-sacrificing person you need to do commentary. Commentary people have to be willing to hand the event to the images that are on screen and enhance those.
Exactly, bro. And you know that. You are literally the salt and pepper, and you're not trying to be the show. The show is the show.
Yeah.
You're there to help it, add to it, season it. You ain't the show. I think there was too many people behind camera wanting to own that moment and to be the star.
Yeah.
And Pete obviously wanted to go and make a bit of a statement as a comedian. And that's what smart comedians do, and I get that, but he ain't going to do it again now because Jake Paul's like, fuck that guy.
Who knows? That's the funny thing is, like, who knows? Because everyone knew that was Pete's comedy, and I think he's a big face in America. But I think in a couple of months, Jake might look at that and go, it wasn't as bad as I thought.
I did hear that he brought up something inappropriate in the locker room pre-fight. That was bleeped out. So
wow, okay.
I doubt it.
Okay, right, that makes sense. To be fair,
all I'm saying is we
pushing it.
Me and you.
Oh, bro, I will dye my hair blonde and wander around the event, causing utter offence to everyone.
It was enjoyable. The show did huge numbers, bro.
Yeah, did it?
He did like 1.5 million pay-per-view buys, mate. It's insane what he did.
That's amazing.
So right now, you could argue Jake Paul is the biggest draw in boxing. Like, because Anthony Joshua, without a good opponent, probably doesn't do 1 million buys. Tyson Fury, the same. Jake Paul could fight a fucking broom and get over 1 million. It's mental.
He's a stiff idiot.
But this is, like, I said in my prediction or something like, or was it after? I can't remember. I was saying something like, no one gives a fuck about Canelo Alvarez. No. Like,
that's why they put Alvarez.
I said Jake Paul's going to outsell him by treble. It turned out to be more like fucking 10 times.
That's amazing, though.
It was 10 times. And when people are like, no one gives a fuck about Canelo, and I seen the odd little comment, I'm like, you get what I mean? The mainstream. Like, Jake Paul has become the biggest star in boxing. Yeah. Can you fucking believe... That little brother that we had on the podcast three years ago, who wasn't even the main event.
The mute who sat here at one point. Like, he was a good guest. Actually, looking back at those podcasts when I edited them back, I actually grew to like him even more.
So this is the thing that I originally got onto the Jake thing about, was because it's the whole, you are the person that we... Right. And I think I can appreciate someone for doing good, even like no matter, I don't know, what you think about them or what the common opinion is of them. And I think right now there's this sort of bad guy image around him. And I you know, he plays up the camera, he says the odd Conor McGregor style thing, he can be a bit cocky, arrogant. But like on the podcast I did with him, I thought you could really see through that and see the real version.
You can see his intellect, I thought, on the podcast. In the same way as when you've had JJ on, I thought you could see how smart he was. And the same with Logan. I think any of those guys, it's been... there's not really been that front up of like fighter. There's been like the intellectual aspect of them. And they all have that, by the way. Like they're all really smart, really like eloquent guys. And sometimes they just get pigeonholed.
And that's because when you see a young kid making that kind of money, and yes, they've all been dicks on camera at one point and been like silly.
Who hasn't?
But I think it's hard for people to let go of that thing of you are always that one thing. I've seen that of you. You can't be anything else now. And it's like, these guys are media moguls with teams around them. They're resilient. They are good with strategy. They have had to be resourceful because they've never just done one thing. So all these boys have tried their hands at loads of different things. And being a big YouTuber, you have to get good at lots of different skills. So that is why, like, they're like a Swiss Army knife for media. They can do it all. Editing, production, directing, like even just that they can
Creative.
do all. So no wonder when these guys try their hands at music, boxing, or any other thing that they put their mind to, no doubt if Logan went into wrestling full time, he'd be a big success, whatever. They're multi-talented. And yes, they might not be singularly talented at one thing as good as Canelo Alvarez is at boxing or as good at music as Justin Bieber or whatever. But the point is I can appreciate what they've done. And as a YouTuber myself, being fortunate enough to have them on the show back in the day early on, to watch them grow and fucking become, you know, when Logan's on WrestleMania and Jake Paul's doing his fucking boxing event and JJ's fucking top of the charts in the UK, you know,
you can't get in a fucking Uber right now, by the way, without a KSI song being on.
I gotta have
genuinely
patience.
Yeah. And you're just like,
I prefer that one to the Craig David one.
My favorite one was the Nathan Dawes one.
Okay.
That was a decent hit.
Patience, I think, is the best one.
The Gary Barlow one he did. I love that one.
Have a little patience.
I'd love to see JJ freestyle over the top up that.
But
I feel like that'd be
with auto-tune.
Yeah, with auto-tune and with the accent one that he does, the accent rap that he does.
So yeah, I'm happy for them all, and I think that was partly what I enjoyed is the feeling beforehand. People weren't looking at the skills of Jake Paul and the skills of Ben.
Yeah.
They were simply going, a UFC fighter cannot be chinned by a YouTuber. That can't happen.
Yeah.
And just to be like, well, watch. And as a YouTuber myself, it's like, stop putting people in boxes. Stop discounting what people can do.
And also
like
stop putting yourself in a box.
Yeah, and that goes for everyone. You know what I mean? And I think it's great that when people don't see limitations, and clearly those three guys do not, because they have done whatever the fuck they want to do, I love that, because that's the attitude I've got, and that's the attitude that I think winners have generally.
Speaking of which, it was really good to have Joe Weller back on the show.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Genuinely, like I feel like you know, you two have always had a great relationship, and it's always been nice to watch. But he's got such a great energy now, and I really enjoyed hanging out with him in a way that maybe I hadn't really before, because he seemed so relaxed and so sort of, he seemed very comfortable in his own skin.
He loved every minute of it, mate, and
clearly,
and I loved him being here. And I said to him, I said, we've got to get you on another one. Do you know what I mean? And I know that there were people like, whoa, fucking Joe's mortal and all that, but it's like, bro, what the fuck do you do when you're watching a fight? Like, we get drunk, we enjoy the night. And also for me and Joe, it was a bit like we hadn't seen each other in a while, lockdown. So I think we were both getting absolutely pissed because we were just happy to be like having a laugh and catching up and talking about fighting, which is what we love. And especially a YouTuber fight, like, you know, it brings back a lot of memories, and Joe started it, so I fucking loved it, mate.
I really enjoyed it, and you know what you can also tell is he's changed so much in the way that he speaks because he has his own podcast now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like having your own podcast massively.
Let's not advertise it.
Well, we're not advertising it. We're not saying it's called waffling or whatever, but it is really. it's good to see him doing well. I enjoy hanging out with Joe. He's nice.
I'm just looking at what people have sent us to talk about.
Now your request section.
Sorry, no. People said. Talk about the Beats by Dre deal, didn't they?
Oh, did we do a Beats by Dre deal?
Yeah, we signed with with what these bad boys.
Oh, these bad boys. What, these?
Ooh, smoking.
They are actually, so first of all, they're great headphones and they're really good to do podcasts with. So if you enjoy doing a podcast, then they look great on while you're on.
Probably should get the
main.
Probably should get the star in.
Yeah, probably should get the. Well, you've usually got that, so get Brian now.
I'm pretty buzzing with that.
What, for one of your childhood heroes' name to be on the side of your own brand on there? Yeah, right. That makes sense.
Fucking mental, mate.
It was pretty insane, wasn't it, when they first sort of got in contact and went, yeah, we're thinking we like what you do.
I want to give a shout out to the Beats by Dre boys because they have been lovely from day one, and they really care about the content as well. Like they're not like.
Can you change this to make it look a bit more like...
They were like, we just want you to keep being you, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what about the controversial? He's like,
fine.
That's what...
If anything, that enhanced the deal.
That actually surprised me.
Yeah.
Like, because, having a company with the fingerprints of Dr. Dre on, it was built on rebellion. It was built on not giving a fuck, Yeah. So I think that they look for characters who are, not just going to be good boys on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I do remember, I think one of the first things that they talked to us about was the Fall of True Geordie video, which really made me smile because that was such a low point when I made that video. And there was so much music we used, and there is even a line where I go driving in my car listening to Dr. Dre.
Right, yeah.
And I actually said that in that video. So for them to watch that and be thinking about...
And use 50 Cent music in there, which was produced by Dr. Dre.
Well, that was one little thing. Loads of people got in the comments were like, that isn't even Dr. Dre. I was like, it was produced by Dre. Thank you very much.
It's also quite weird because we left with the video, with the next episode video that we launched it with, or sort of formally announced it with, because we've been wearing the headphones for ages in case no one had noticed. Like, we used all the Dr. Dre songs for that, and then by the end of the video you realize why. And loads of people were like, I thought you were using a lot of Dr. Dre in this video, which was great fun to be able to edit to something like that.
It's nice to have those little Easter eggs and stuff there for people to sort of not realize why it's called the next episode until the very last second of a 19-minute video or whatever it was.
Do you know what else I realized when editing that together, not to go back to the start of the podcast, but like how many different subjects are covered in one podcast and how many different aspects of each person's personality is shown. And the real struggle was, or not the struggle, but like the task and the challenge was to knit all those things together, because one podcast you've got Frank Mir, who's sitting there, he just loved life when he was on our show. And the next second, you've got someone who's sitting there who's lost a parent or has, lost their loved one or spent 26 years in prison. And you're like, how do I get one thread throughout that whole thing? But there were a lot of commonalities in everyone's experiences. So no matter what their suffering was, no matter what their challenge in life, there was something you could see as like a blueprint as to... It was quite heartening to watch.
That's what made me think. When I watched your edit, I remember thinking, we're all the same really, aren't we? Yeah,
it really made me feel that way when you watch them and how similar people's solutions and experiences. It was quite nice.
I think I find it hard to connect with people sometimes, so that was nice to see that, and the way you guys strung it together and created your own jigsaw out of a whole load of what seemed like random moments.
Yeah.
And it shows what a fucking smart dude you are, because you were able to piece things together and go, right, this year. And then I would just come along and go, oh, you tried that?
Try that bit.
Yeah. But...
Turn that up.
Basically, yeah. But, it was... It was a special video, that. It really, really was. And it was so funny when people were like... some of the comments were like, when will this guy start making documentaries about himself? I'm like, not true.
Actually, I didn't make the documentary, so
I literally just sat back.
I commissioned someone else to make this, so the joke's on you. It was like sampling and the funny thing was, it was a bit like sampling in hip hop, like where you start to, like, you listen to a whole song and then you go, oh, I like that bit, I'll take that, and then pair that up with this beat and those things.
Well, you basically were Kanye for that. You were making your own, amalgamation of footage and music and, a movie almost. And I think it was extremely challenging for you as well, because you seemed to get to a point where it was like so much was right, but you just were missing that one little bit, and it's like, oh, how do we get a, and I think people, when you watch it in one go, it seems so smooth, but that's like any bit of, like this table, for example, it seems so smooth because someone's worked on it and smoothed it for weeks and weeks and weeks, to get it perfect like that. And I am lucky that I know the work that went into it, Because
it's fair to say, when we first watched it, there were so many different bits that were just they just didn't fit together, and it's hard to piece them together. And the strange thing I always struggle with editing, and I think is the creative process in general, is when you come to share it with someone else, it changes the way you think about it, and it changes how you are piecing things together, because you start to take another input into it, and it starts to change how you start to piece stuff together.
Yeah.
And it's a really strange experience, similar with anyone's editing, but editing in the first place fucks with your head. And if you edit for long enough, it just messes up.
Yeah, but specifically when you're editing a creative piece, and that's the thing that a lot of editors don't get to do, because they're editing to a brief, and it's, here's the footage, make this da-da-da-da-dum.
Right.
You literally had hundreds of videos to go through, and no blueprint. It was simply...
Oh no, it was Dr. Dre, not Jay-Z.
Make it as you go, almost structure it as it's happening. So I think and another thing that conflicts with the mind is, like, when you're a creative person, you very rarely find creative people are extremely organized people as well. So what you're trying to do is force your brain to do two completely different things, which is stay organized and to make sure that this follows a structure while creating that structure at the same. And it's just...
That was a real challenge.
It's difficult, man.
That was a real challenge in the first few weeks. We found this when trying to edit it together, because you'd be watching a podcast and you'd find 2 or 3 clips out of it, and then you go to place one clip, and then you'd be placing that clip and and it would make a thread, and then you'd think, oh, I could do this, and you just get off on so many different tangents of well, that's where Chris Eubank can go, and then this guy can go here. And at the start of the day, you'd actually just wanted to put Frank Mir where he was meant to go. Oh. And 20 minutes later, you've got Chris Eubank here and 5 other people, and Frank Mir doesn't even fit into that bit anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's more like Play-Doh, You're just trying to piece all these bits together and make a dog, but you end up making a cat in the end. What a beautiful cat, though.
I'm more than happy with it, and I know bits were. And and going back to the deal, when they got in contact, it was like getting a call from the Queen or something,
right? Yeah,
for other people,
yeah.
For my nana,
it's the equivalent.
Yeah. I was like, you don't get what you've done here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sort of. I've spoken at length many, many times on old podcasts where religiously I would listen to Dre. I grew up on Eminem, 50 Cent, Dr. Dre. I had a Walkman, and every day I'd put that Dre 2001 album in, and I'd go back and listen to The Chronic and all of that, and all of the albums he produced. And I could tell you so many random facts about Dr. Dre and his music and stuff. So it was wow, I grew up loving hip hop, and to me, YouTube is the new hip hop. It is that new form of expression. It is where people are discovered now,
right.
And hip hop is so shit now. So I think it's just
very equivalent. It's very similar to where YouTube, sometimes the commercial side of YouTube is actually hip hop. Commercial hip hop seems to live on that commercial side of YouTube right now, strangely.
Yeah,
and YouTube weirdly pushes it, despite the fact that a lot of it is
trash.
Not actually, yeah.
So yeah,
no judgmental way, by the way.
I just feel really grateful to be chosen in that, and to because it is a brand I've always enjoyed and loved, and there was a reason and when I watched the Defiant ones, which is, it's funny to say this now, but I always thought of Me and You Dre and Jimmy and the way they work together, the way they help fit in with each other's flaws and make up for what each other's lacking, but also are both very strong in many ways. And, and the partnership and all the years and everything they achieved. And I was like, I love that documentary. If anyone hasn't seen the Defiant ones, it was it really made me think about what's achievable in my own life. And to then be contacted by them after seeing that documentary is just...
It's amazing.
Mind-blowing. So yeah, like that young kid who walked to school every day listening to Dre, and now I'm partnered with his company. It's just fucking what the fuck, like.
It's like almost impossible to put into words. But the strange thing is, they're paying you to put this sort of thing into words. So it's really disappointing that you can't do that.
That is bizarre to me. Like, that is bizarre.
Yeah.
But it ain't even about the money, this one. Like,
well, this is actually about, I think when they first came to us, it's actually about opportunities. And they've got a table of opportunities that we can mesh with them with. And it's like, people and, rooms we can get in and those kind of things.
Well, and also looking back, I remember when we stopped working with a certain company who said that I wasn't brandable, I wasn't sellable. And now to be working with Poker Stars, Gymshark and Beats by Dre, who are, AAA. Like, they are the best of the best at in what they do, they're the best, all three. And also, me personally, like those companies, enjoy working with those companies.
You use all of those products in that sense.
And I literally live in their, their stuff, and use the poker app and all of that. Like, it's just a great feeling, and to feel like I wasn't good enough back in the day when, going back to that guy who, was wild as fuck when you met me and stuff like that. And to a degree, I get the criticism at the time, but there was no attitude of, this kid's a diamond, we could work with him, we could make him this, we could help sculpt him, we could, there wasn't any attempt. I had to figure that all out for myself, but I'm glad I did, because now I don't have to cut those motherfuckers in, boy. Yeah,
that is so true as well.
It's like they would have taken a whole big percentage, and now we're doing my own thing. And yeah, it's a real proud moment, because I'm a kid who at 10 years old was told I was destined for prison, by my teacher and stuff, like my mom and parents even, and heard stuff like that. And it's like, it just shows how, and I think that's why I have that attitude. People think I'm self-obsessed sometimes, or I tell my story over and over sometimes, and that's not what it's about. It's about, for me, telling my story and luckily having a best mate who can do what you can fucking do. I just want to show people what's fucking possible. You know what I mean? Because I seen that growing up, and I was by Dr. Dre and by other people who were written off, were, working class guys from all over the world, and were told you will never be anything. And because they didn't take no for an answer and they believed in themselves, they got somewhere. Doesn't mean you're going to fucking, be Michael Jordan or whatever. But if you have that attitude and you have a passion and you do that, then there's a good chance that you'll get somewhere, which is better than fucking nowhere, which is where you'll get if you do fuck all, mate. And
I think the main aspect of storytelling is finding things that people can relate to, and experiences and known experiences. And the best thing to draw from is your own life. So if people can latch on to elements of that, which was with this, we were trying to make something about the podcast, not necessarily broadly about everything, and all those different aspects, sort of them just fell into place, and those people related to you.
I grew up listening to Eminem tell me
about his
life, who he was, and it made me care. And I learned that through those artists, because they talked about their experiences over and over and over again.
And people sort of project themselves onto you, and then projection shines back.
You relate to that person, to that artist, whether they're a YouTuber, rapper, or whatever the fuck they're doing, filmmaker, anything. And when I was trying to tell my story, in those times I did, it's because I knew at some point people will get me a bit better, and that'll make them care more, and I'll develop a better relationship with not only my audience but also outside of that. And hence why Beats by Dre, say Fall of True Geordie, take
invest in it. Invest in it.
So when people go, why do you keep telling your story, it's like, bro, you don't get the game, mate. You don't fucking get the game. I do, and that's why I'm doing it. Do you know what I mean?
It's a fun game, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and as sad as some of my life's been, the ups and downs is who it's made me, and to see it obviously in the way you put it together, and obviously it doesn't explain everything, but you see those moments of tears, you see the highs and the lows, and yeah, it's nice to watch back, and that's a video that, when I'm an old man, I'll have, and that's great. That
It triggers some good memories as well, doesn't it? It makes me feel quite nostalgic about when the podcast first started.
Especially when you're doing like, you got to express yourself in the NWA music. When we first started podcasting, that's the literal parallel we're drawing, is like we were the first guys in the UK to do a video podcast and to really kick the shit out of podcasting in the UK. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm the fucking Dr. Dre of YouTube by any means, but
draw those equivalents though.
If you want to say that, no. But you know, but what I'm saying is, we were just two kids, you know, who didn't give a fuck and were just like out there. And that's when we do look back at ourselves. And I have said some of the mad shit I've said, and I do go, fuck me, you know. Yeah. But that's part of growing up, and that's part of being a wild kid. And if I wasn't that person, I would never have kept going and been who I was, you know. So,
yeah. It's been a good ride so far. Hey Brian, did you know that Manscaped is now available in the UK? Yeah, a lot of people do now, because Manscaped has been advertising in the UK for a little while. But what they might not know is that Manscaped has lots of great products. It's not just about, say, shaving your balls.
That's what most people think it is, Lawrence.
Right, because it's called Manscaped. But they think of the hairy parts on their body. But not every man has seen every hairy part on his body.
That's because it's all sexualised.
Right, exactly.
That annoys me.
Is the nose sexualised?
Stop thinking about penis all the time.
Exactly. Think about...
Get out your dirty minds.
The weed whacker, right?
Where'd you pop that, though? That looks like a cocoa.
Nose. See? Smart. And not many men are very conscious of their nose hair.
It's minimal effort for maximum results.
Exactly, yeah. And the maximum result being that when someone looks at you, or you even look at yourself in the mirror, bam.
If you want to trim your chest hair, your armpit hair, your head hair, your beard hair.
Well, I wouldn't use this. I'd use the Lawnmower 3.0, but this is
your
perfect.
Your balls, your gooch,
this
your
will
arse.
Not do the balls or the gooch.
The point I'm making, that's specifically for that, the nostrils.
Specifically for the nostrils.
Got everything
this will be
covered.
incredibly slow on the balls and the gooch.
They've got everything They've got everything covered.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Like the Lawnmower 3.0, which is like a bigger, better version of this. But
can we not describe it? They'll show it on the screen. Show it.
The point is, though, you can go to manscaped.com/true. Do you know what you'll find there? You won't believe this. You won't believe this. A great discount. 20% off. And free shipping.
You're welcome.
Free shipping. It's the shipping that costs a lot right now.
You're welcome.
All right? It's the shipping. The shipping is always the thing that gets you. You get to the checkout and you go, the shipping.
Stung me. Do you know what, with Manscaped? It doesn't sting because it's perfectly well engineered.
Exactly.
And free shipping.
Boom. Go get this. Go get the Lawnmower 3.0.
Enjoy
and go
it.
Get some ball wipes.
Enjoy it.
Go get them.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
Give me problems. Do you think I say that out loud twice a day, to be honest with you?
Oh, okay, this is a good one. My mate is whipped.
Right.
Do you know what you know? I think they mean, can you even say that nowadays?
He's pussy whipped.
Can you even say that nowadays? I don't know if you're allowed to say that anymore.
If you're pussy whipped, you're not allowed to say it.
Good point, but if you aren't,
you can say it.
Love the podcast. Have done since the start. A lot of people have been saying that recently, having seen the retrospective video. They're appreciating the old stuff now. When you got Poet and Vooj on, we don't talk about that. My best mate is so whipped it makes me cringe. We're in first year of uni and live in the same flat, and so does his girlfriend. Oh, that's a mistake, first of all. I'll point out some of the mistakes you made down the line here. They were talking before Christmas, but it was clear she was more interested than he was, so nothing stopped him from sheeshing.
I don't know.
Seshing. Right, okay. Basically, this guy has a best mate who is so into this girl, but he can't see that in the long run that's a bad thing. First of all, in your first year of uni, big piece of advice. Don't go to uni whilst dating someone. Don't start dating someone in the first year of uni. It's extremely tempting. You know, first of all, to go to uni dating someone. You don't want to let your high school sweetheart go. Sure, we get it. It's really hard. You don't want to be the bad guy. You don't want to be the person.
You're such a bullshitter. You're the biggest sentimental cunt around.
Yeah, but
that's exactly what you would have done.
Did I go to university single, though? Yes.
That was purely by luck. If you'd have met her sooner, you'd have fucking given it all up straight away.
Yeah, but I mean, she's a 10. You know?
Well, then you have to disclaimer that, don't you?
Right. Okay. That's what I'm saying. But how many 10s do you know at the age of 17 or 18, right? Someone who can tick every box that you want in your life. And to be honest, at 17 or 18, you don't even know what the boxes are. You don't even have 5 of the boxes there.
No, at 17, 18, you think everything's ticked all the time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You're like, oh, she just made me a cheese toasty. Tick, she can cook. You're like, that's not cooking. Before you go to uni, don't hook up with someone. When you get to uni, try not to, heavily get into it with someone because you're still finding yourself. Give yourself the space to just be a person. Don't give yourself the space to let your girlfriend move into the flat with you. Do you know what I mean?
I'd say continue that for at least 4 years after uni.
Right. No, yeah, I'm saying, I'm just saying. Until you're about 23, 24, try not to, really like,
I think if you can be single till you're 25, that's ideal. At least.
Yeah. I actually agree with that.
Yeah.
Or, 24, 25 is probably about the time where you start going, okay, everyone's bones are fully formed now. I can see what you're going to look like for the rest of your life. You can sort of begin to work it out, At 21, everyone's beautiful. At 21, we've all got something going for us, which is why the YouTubers really struggle, because they come through at 17 or 18, they look fresh for a few years, We started when we were done.
I do like the fact that we've actually aged up better. Whereas
we've aged better.
You can see some of the guys. I don't want to name names.
Not going so good.
No, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched the E-Boys recently.
When your whole thing's being boyishly good looking, and then it's sort of just looking like you're just like an older, young-faced, weird guy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
There's no need to be so aggressive to Harry, but he does have that look.
Who?
Harry.
I'm not talking about Harry.
All right, okay. No, nor am I.
No.
Thea.
No.
Scars and body confidence. It's actually, I think it might be a girl, but the name is a tricky one. Okay, yeah, no, it is a girl. Love the podcast and congrats on the Beats deal. It genuinely says that.
Good luck.
Do scars put men off a girl? I'm very insecure about a huge scar across my stomach from a liver transplant due to having liver cancer when I was younger.
Jesus.
Didn't know I was going to take this turn, I'm sorry. I can't imagine ever being able to take my top off and receive a reaction, or even if someone was to question it. I just want an honest opinion on how a scar is perceived. No, you're right. Leave all your clothes on because everyone else has got a perfect body, and ultimately we're only looking for people with perfect bodies. Thank you. And ultimately, when I take my t-shirt off, there's nothing on me. I look like a Ken doll up until this massive penis. So. It's the same advice from you, Brian. Your body's perfect under that, isn't it? I personally just think I understand where she's coming from, especially women. Like, I think people don't understand. People talk about beauty standards. There's a lot of beauty standards put on men. Right.
We talked to Ben, the owner of Gymshark, about body positivity for men as well. Mm-hmm. Like, even men now are feeling like, fuck, can I have this? Can I have that? You know what I mean? I've got some stretch marks and bloody scars. And
so
stuff.
Do I.
But I get it. Like, I think women especially feel under a lot of pressure. And when a woman has a scar in a spot like that, it can be daunting as fuck because she's just like, oh my God, what is the reaction going to be like? And I think... Look, finding a nice guy for a start is a winner because the guy is probably just going to be absolutely fine about it. But also, the lads I know personally wouldn't be bothered by that. So, for example, one of my mates once dated a girl who had a stoma.
She was from Estonia, sorry.
A stoma. Isn't that what they call them? Where
he had an absolute stoma and he managed to pull her?
No, it's a bag for your... when you've got... is it colostomy?
A colostomy bag.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And when you take those off, it's something called a stoma.
Oh, right, where basically it just...
It attaches.
Yeah.
And, like, at no point was he ever, like, commenting on that to me or, oh, it's weird or...
Yeah, that would be very strange if he had.
No,
yeah.
but the point I'm making is... Women like this girl in question is probably worried that men would go, oh, and then she had this horrible... Like... At no point was anything ever mentioned about something like that, which, I can imagine for the girl would have been quite a daunting thing because of the nature of what comes out of there and whatever else, that it's a tricky situation for a woman to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And, if you want to get down and dirty, so to speak, it's probably a bit of a situation that she has to contend with on her, but
especially if it's those tend to be quite visible things.
So of course, but it wasn't a big deal.
No,
that is the point. Is like
because he cared about her.
Yeah, and that's the thing is when someone does care about you, a scar will be no big deal. I mean, at all. Like,
let's also be straight up here. Like, you're a fucking badass. Like, you got a liver transplant to overcome liver cancer. And you are, I mean, I'm hoping you've kind of made it out the other side of that now, which is why you're thinking of getting a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whoever you want to, you know, have sex with or whatever. Like, that's actually a pretty cool story to be able to tell someone. I know obviously it's traumatic in a way, but it's also like a life experience where not many people have been through that. Not many people have made it through that. And the respect level that I have for people who have made it through cancer is incredible. But also just to be able to sit opposite someone and say, yes, I've got a scar here, but that comes from this. Then when someone's in the bed, maybe that's a solution for you.
So what I was going to suggest is bring it up long before you're taking your clothes off, and be aware of it. Like, let the guy be aware of it. So
otherwise, it sort of goes like this. You take it off and you go, by the way, there was this liver cancer thing, and I had the transplant, and that's why. And they sort of go, sorry, what? And address it at dinner. Do you know what I mean?
I would say early-ish on, if you decide you like the person, let them know. And if you're worried about their reaction or you're worried about what they're going to think, I don't know what position it is, but like you could even on your phone show a picture of it or something and just say, this is what it looks like, you know, and just so that it's done, it's over and done with.
Scars are kind of who you are in a little bit of a way, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, scars are life experience.
Well, they're a bit like tattoos as well.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got scars from I've broke this and that. I've had bar fights and stuff. Yeah. And it ain't a big deal, though. Do you know what I mean? And I get for a guy it's different, but not really. Like, you know, if I was with a girl who had a scar, I really wouldn't give a shit, like, at all.
And in many ways, like, you know, when you really fall in love with someone, then you fall in love with their body. So you kind of just, those things kind of come with them. They're like part of the package.
I mean, it literally is part of who they are, and I think, yeah, like I've never even heard a guy mention, I was, you know, men are very straightforward creatures, to be honest. Like, you know, if you look good and you smell good, men are not really going to care about the odd little mark like that, and even if it's a big scar, no one gives a fuck.
And actually, we're a lot more understanding, I'd imagine, than a lot of people. I think credit for.
I do think men are typecast as, like, you know, and I'm probably part of the problem, like I was talking about earlier, like, you know, but like,
you can still have a big bum and a massive scar.
I mean, literally,
what's
what do you
problem?
think an arse crack is?
Right. Yeah, it is just one long sort of split in the body, really, isn't it?
But what I mean is, like, I think men are far more chill and understanding about stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, before everyone hammers us in the comments, I'm sure there's the odd dickhead, but generally speaking, it's fine.
I guess that's her fear, is she interacts with a dickhead. And in that scenario, you have to know it's not you.
And you also have to, if you're worried about it and you are going to be gutted if anyone says something wrong, choose wisely. Yeah,
because actually you should be choosing wisely who you go to bed with anyway. Because, you know, there's a lot of shit out there. Do you know what I'm saying? Anyway, the point is...
Moving on. Move on.
This is quite a good one. This one's from a guy, and he says, how to get back into good workout routine after depression. So I guess this could be an interesting one. Before I get started on my problem, I just want to give the typical how much your channel... Okay, blah, blah, blah. You guys, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Anyway, enough of that. Thanks. I need to talk about the gym. I'm 24 years old, 5'9". Okay, so about average height, right? Is 5'9" average height? Or
about that.
And 15 and a half stone. Okay, so you're quite a heavy guy for 5'9". That's a lot of muscle. My mother passed away of cancer in 2019, and since then it's been hard for me to cope with her death. I don't drink, smoke, or do drugs, so my coping method is eating. I can cook, but whatever a takeaway is there, I eat it to comfort me. I've tried going to the gym and try to lose weight, but never quite get that far. Long story short, how do you find the motivation to get over depression and eating and get into the dietary gym exercise recommendation side?
I don't know if I'm the perfect guy to give advice on the eating.
Right.
Because that's still something
you are good at... You have become better at like managing your diet, and you are, you know, you've expanded your menu of what you would eat. Because when you first came to London, we did just go to Shake Shack every week. Whereas now you're a bit more like, I might have this with a salad, like a steak and this, or, you know, you like Italian.
I try and replace things. So like if I'm hungry, I'll rather than having like I got like protein shakes and protein biscuits and stuff. So I'm like, this is sort of convincing my head I'm having a biscuit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Smart. What's a protein biscuit taste like, by the way?
They're not bad.
They're
actually.
like cookies.
Yeah, but they're made from oats and stuff, and they've got a little bit of a chocolate taste, but it's not like proper. But it's enough to make you feel full and stuff like that.
It makes me miss that place under 500 that we used to have around
so
here.
Good, wasn't it?
We found this restaurant on Deliveroo. We don't care about the problem so much, but no, like we found this place on Deliveroo, and genuinely, it was so good. Like every meal you got from there was really, really good. But it gave me the idea of like how easy it is to find healthy meals, which also taste good.
Well, it isn't easy because now that place is gone because of lockdown. So,
genuinely,
So part of the problem is he's still grieving, and I think if he hasn't, he needs to talk to someone about his mother. It doesn't have to be a counsellor. I would heavily recommend once a week, find someone who knew her, if possible, and talk about some memories. Just go over half an hour, have a cuppa, talk about memories. That'll help with the grieving. It's about doing little bits at a time as well. So like with the training, part of the problem is when you're depressed, you don't want to do anything. It's about just doing little bits to start with. Like if you think to yourself, all right, I'm going to get my running trainers on or whatever, I really can't be fucking asked to do anything today. Just say 10 minutes. What's 10 minutes?
Nothing. 10
minutes. Just go out, even if you don't run for the 10 minutes. Run until you're tired, then walk. When you can be asked to run again, run again.
Yeah.
And then check your watch when you've done 10 minutes and go back and say, I achieved 10 minutes. I did it. Then up the time whenever you can be asked to. And the next day, you might have more motivation. So you say, I'm going to do 20 minutes of that today. That same shit. Running and walking.
And it can be baby steps. It could be 15 minutes. It could be 12.
But set yourself a minimum and go, I have to do that 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So the next day, when you're sitting there feeling like shit and your depression's worse again, go, but I'm going to do the 10 minutes because I promised myself I'll do the 10 minutes. And then do the 10 minutes. And if you've got a minimum on your worst day that you know you'll do, what you find is them endorphins start happening a little bit more and a little bit more, and the ability to push on, and there'll be a point where you think, I've got to do that minimum 10 minutes, and you'll feel rock bottom, but you'll get to that 10 minutes one day, and you'll go, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do half an hour.
Yeah.
And you'll push yourself half an hour, and afterwards you'll think, I fucking did half an hour. Do you know what I mean?
Is that what you've done to get running and stuff like that?
And the fitness grows and grows and grows, and the confidence grows, and the positivity grows.
You need patience for that, though. That requires some patience, doesn't it?
You do, but True Geordie is telling you, you have to do this, mate. So now you have to do it. And then you have to tell us later on how you got on. So do that.
I do like that.
And I've done this myself. This is exactly how I've started running again, and it works. It literally works. So, when I started, I was running slow. I was walking slower. And I was only doing 10 minutes. Now I'm doing half an hour comfortably. Now I can do an hour if I want. You know what I mean?
And then you build it up.
Because I had my minimum. And then there'll be days, where your body is tired or whatever. But you just have to have that minimum and go, I will do that 10 minutes. Anyway, hope that helps.
Like that. Good advice. And in regards to eating healthy, it's tricky, but
yeah. I think let's not try and. My advice would be sort the diet last. If you love your food, trying to eat healthy as well as tackle the death of his mother and exercise, and then do all three is going to be too much. Do the other two first. When you feel like your exercise is good, and you're feeling better about losing your mum, which is hard enough for anyone, then do the diet after that.
It's tricky, isn't it?
Because if you take on all three, you might just collapse early, and then you'll be back to square one. That's what happened with me.
Yeah, you did take on quite a lot once.
Yeah, I fucked it up.
A lot of plates. I've got a good one here. It's advice on destroying my fuckboy mentality. Please help. This one's called Call Me Joe.
It feels like the last 5 years of my life, that.
Right, yeah, there you go. Well, destroyed they are. I'm a third-year uni student studying maths. And I thought of commitment to one girl. The thought of commitment to one girl makes me feel sick. It all started my first year when I was when I was living in my humble abode. I was like, really? Is that what you? And I would trek up to the North Midlands where I began my journey into further education.
Wow.
This guy's a bit of a writer, but some of his English isn't very good. I can see why you're doing maths, mate. I didn't know what to expect in my first year, but boy, oh boy, was I in for a treat. This is a real one. Freshers Week was amazing. Beers, boys, bitches, nightclubs, that only got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I love big tits and big arse. And I was hanging around with lots of big tits and big arses in very skimpy dresses.
Good boy.
Wow.
Good lad.
Obviously, your boy was smashing through birds quicker than Jake Paul knocked out Ben Askren.
Oh, fuck, son.
Good reference for Geordie there, he puts in brackets. I genuinely thought life cannot get any better than this. I hadn't...
But can you... Don't say smashing through birds.
Okay.
That's a dead giveaway that you're a terrible shag.
Right. That's first of all, dead giveaway that you're a terrible shag. Secondly, it's an alarm in a woman's head that you're a fuckboy. Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, he knows it himself, but I'm just saying, like, even to me, when you say I'm smashing birds, I go,
you fuckboy.
Yeah, they're not having a good time. These girls are so disappointed.
Yeah, they're disappointed, but he's going, that was great, wasn't it? And they're going, lovely, yeah.
Oh, they're walking away in the morning going, and that is the last time I'll be seeing you.
Well, it's interesting because as a whole of the next year, I was fucking and chucking every bird I could.
Were they chucking him by any chance?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
And
I'll never call her again. She's like, yeah, no shit, bro. I've changed my number.
She's also genuinely like, that's lucky. I genuinely couldn't stop thinking about sex. I think this guy's another problem. He then attaches a photo of him where he has abs and quite prominent pectoral muscles.
Can you show me and we'll just go on the wide so that no one could see the...
Ooh, oh, 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 oh.
Right, so he loves himself then.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, he's that kind of guy.
Fair play, though. You got to have confidence. So, I rate the confidence, if nothing else.
Near the end of my second year, I met this girl that was my ideal type. See below. Okay, do you want you? He's really gone into detail here.
You know what it is? I fucking rate the storytelling, if not else.
She's a very pretty girl.
No, we're going to need a closer look at both of them, to be honest with you. I want to see if he's punching or not. Wait there.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Very pretty girl, though.
Just to verify on behalf of the boy.
Facially.
She's a very pretty girl. Yeah, he's done very well for himself.
He's done very well, and she's definitely facially prettier than he is. Because that fringe doesn't do you any favours. I'm joking. It's a joke. Relax.
Yeah.
Near the end of my second year, I met this girl that was my ideal type, brackets see below. We've seen below, we rate below. And I ended up going out with her for 10 months. But over that period of time, I began to realize that the first 3 months of the relationship was way better than anything after the honeymoon period.
Yeah. Welcome to reality,
welcome
bro.
To reality, buddy.
I think every man and his dog feels that way. When things start off with a girl, oh mate, she can't suck your dick enough, bro. Right. When things are at the start, it is beautiful.
So he then says, and this is how, but also terrible. It started great, but ended bad with me eventually dumping her. I felt like she just piled all her problems onto me and then expected me to make her feel better without her giving a fuck about how I felt.
Can I just say, mate, that's relationships, right? I'm sorry. Generally speaking, and look, there's some good girls out there. There's some very good girls out there. But sometimes you become some sort of fucking weird diary.
Right.
Where they write on your fucking, in your head, here is my problem. As if your job is to fucking solve it. And a lot of people have...
Check out the hook while my DJ revolves it.
A lot of people have problems like this where they don't realise how negative they can be, and they just project. And
very often their partner will sort of go, yeah, because they think that's how a relationship's supposed to work.
But you start off trying to be the white knight in shining armour, and you thought, okay, well, I'll try and help you with this, I'll try and help you with that. But you get to a point as a man where, and look, again, some of you women out there are lovely, lovely, caring people. Some of you are some whiny cunts, though. And I just want to be honest. And it gets to a point as a man where you go, I ain't a fucking therapist, bro.
Sure.
Don't fucking
You need to give them an hourly rate.
I can. There's understanding, and then there's a point where it goes beyond that, and you go, you are affecting my mental health because all you're doing is fucking complaining.
Blah, blah, blah. And that can happen both ways. Brian's not just saying that's a woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it happens.
Absolutely. I'm coming at this from a man's point of view, talking about my experiences with women. Some have been great, some haven't been so great. But the point I'm making about people is some people are radiators, some people are drains. The radiators will warm up your fucking life. The drains will suck the fucking life out of it.
Try and find a radiator. Those people tend to be able to take some things out and add something in.
No, but I find radiators, people who add and warm up your life and make it better. Because this girl is a classic case, and I'm not having a go at her because she's probably lovely deep down, of someone who is not content within her own self and is not even in a position to have a relationship.
Right.
And there's plenty of people who go their entire lives, without, and we even had this clip in the fucking the Beats video.
Yeah.
You've got to be the person who makes you happy before you even start having a relationship with someone else.
And you agree with it heavily then as well.
And it's true, you know what I mean? And I've been a victim of it. I've been guilty of it, rather, of trying to start something while I was a fucking mess.
Right.
So I'm not just saying it's just other people. Like, I've done this.
Yeah.
I've done this before.
It's life.
Because sometimes you're a shit show of a person, as I've quite obviously been at times, and you see someone you like and you're like, they make me happy. And before you know it, you're bringing them down because you're a fucking mess and you're not in a position to make them happy either. And so it can be both ways. I'm certainly not just pointing the finger, but generally speaking, I think you need, people generally need to watch out for that happening, because it can happen without you even realizing. Like, all of a sudden, like this guy says, he was like, wait there, the first 3 months were great, this is shit. Like, that ain't supposed to happen.
Try not to meet someone in the best thing I can say is try to meet someone at the beginning of winter. Because if you can make it through winter together, you can make it through anything.
It's no one's fault when that happens, but in an ideal world, you'd be able to say to the significant other, whether you're a man or a woman, you need to sort of have therapy, you need to do this, you need to do that. But the problem is, with some of those people, they're completely unaware of the habit they're in, and they tend to be the type of people who do take their stuff out on other people and can lash out at other people. And it's a tricky one. The best thing you can kind of do is treat it like a bomb and just sort of slowly back away.
So he then says, however, now I'm in my final year and starting to look to the future, when life isn't all about ploughing through as many birds as I can. So he's come full circle. Good for him.
He thinks he has.
But But after finding the one that's right for you, which is why I admire Lawrence's commitment to his relationship and his partner. I respect the love and loyalty they have in their relationship.
Wow.
Brackets, congrats on the child. Thanks for that.
Okay.
My problem is that every girl I meet, after I shag them, I instantly want to move on. I am worried that I won't ever be able to commit to anyone because the relationship I mentioned previously opened my eyes to how much of a chore it is having a bird.
Okay. So,
God love him.
You are a classic lad, and I've been one for a long time. So my advice would be, and this is some crazy advice.
This is some crazy
crazy.
Get ready for it.
Crazy. You ready for this?
Brace yourself.
Stop shagging.
Whoa.
Okay.
Oh, I don't like that.
You need to take a fucking break, because the problem is, he's rifling through these girls at such a rapid speed. He can't tell which one's good, which one's not made for him, which one to appreciate, which one to take his time on, which one to give an actual chance to. They're all blending in. They're just pussies at this point. And that is unhealthy, because what he doesn't realize is he ain't respecting them.
Love that.
And he ain't respecting him either. All right, you're getting your nut, right? But before you wake up and realize this is going to happen, you're going to have lower self-esteem, because you're going to realize you're just giving the dick to any girl, and you're not treating yourself as like anything that's worth working for either.
Right.
So you're not in a life situation that's ever going to result in meeting a good person who you can have a long-term thing with, because you're just shagging everything that moves. So there is no hope for you. You ain't got to pray.
Wow.
And you will not, like, if while you're on this fucking pussy go round, it ain't gonna work, you know. So
get off the pussy go round.
Stop right now.
Stop the pussy go round.
Stop in the name of love.
Yeah.
All right.
And the guy's on the mic going round and round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. And you're like, oh, I just want to get off.
No, like he does, and what he needs to do is remember that people can be special. Like, it ain't just I need to fuck you. It ain't just that. There is more to people than that.
Do you also think maybe this guy, because he's only seeing it as sex, is blinding himself to some of the good things that he could see because he's trying to get just straight to the sex?
That's the point I'm making, though. Is like, what is going to happen is and I've done this before.
You'll masturbate a lot.
No, he is going to look back and realize one of those girls who he treated as just
get out my bed.
He shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying it would have worked out with that person. Obviously, for me, there was a couple of people at least who I should have treated with more respect that I regretted, because I was like, maybe that could have went well. But I didn't give it a chance because I was in that whore state of mind that this kid's in, where he's just trying to shag everything.
Horrible, absolutely horrible.
Look, I'm not saying don't fuck plenty of people, but you've been doing this for a while now, bro.
At university as well, so you've had some good years.
You've made your point.
Yeah. Now's the time to start dating.
You've proved you're the man. Calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
And not only that, bro. If you're rattling through girls the way he says he is, that ain't actually gonna get you the best sex either.
Right.
You have better sex if you are dating a girl for a longer term.
Great advice.
Yeah.
You hit this window where the understanding is just there. You both know what you like, and you're just like, this is really good.
He said 3 months is when it went bad. 3 months should be when it starts getting great.
Apex.
Yeah.
Right.
3 months is when the early stuff is been and gone, and that the fun and you're discovering each other.
Yeah.
That's the bit where you really start confessing to each other. Let's try and do this.
You're not as tentative anymore.
Yeah.
You're not going, do you like that? You're sort of going, you like that.
Yeah, you know each other better, and therefore the sex gets even better. So he's kind of ironically fucking himself out of even better sex. So
right.
I think, the problem is everything's just blurred into one right now, and he needs to sort of step back and go, hold on, which of these girls are A, good looking, but B, and most importantly, a good person, and funny,
long-term,
smart,
good partner,
caring,
and enriching my life.
A little word of advice: go for a one. Sometimes as men we can be like dogs, we need something to be exciting all the time.
The titties.
But don't what's the word? Go for someone who's caring and who
not just a body.
Because what I'm saying is, because he's an egomaniac, as I was. When women praise him and care about him and really like him, he'll think he's above them. Just a word of it. You're not.
That makes you a narcissist.
You're not.
Yeah.
No, but he's a man as well, and he thinks he's the guy. So, and he has been. He's killed it. Well done. But you need to realize that one of these girls who actually believes you are the shit is gonna be there for you and actually rate you and support you, and you're actually not what you think you are. So if you're lucky enough to have someone who thinks you're that great, don't just treat her like and wait for a bitchy girl to come along and actually fuck with your head a bit. Appreciate that. Because that, as a man, I've done that before. I've undervalued someone who rated me highly when really you want someone who really thinks you're great. You know,
I get that.
And you can mistake that for I'm so great, I don't even need you. Don't. That's good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And what's happening right now is there's probably a few of them treating him nice, and he's not saying it.
I like that. It's good advice. It's actually great advice. Do you want to end there? Only because I feel like you've really done good advice at the end there, and I want to end on a peak, not on on a where we go. Well, that was
I hope people enjoyed this old school podcast. A bit of a catch up with us two. It got a bit deep sometimes, as it always does.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, but we really appreciate the support lately. It's been fucking unbelievable across the kickoff, TJ Extra, and obviously the main channel and Twitch. We're always doing something. Keep watching.
You're a machine, a factory.
Keep watching us.
Many, many days a week.
We're a content machine.
Yeah, sure. It's good to work with you. Thanks for coming.
It's good to work with you, Lost.
Yeah.
It's good to work.
Great to work with you.
It's good to share the room.
Good to
like the video. Don't forget the links are in the description. Subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we will see you later.